What do you do when your world is shattered in front of everyone you know? When the man you married humiliates you at your own anniversary party, exposing every hidden truth? For Emily, it all came crashing down in one painful moment, but that moment also set her free. Stay tuned to see how Emily turned betrayal into empowerment and how she used the lens of her camera to find her true self and make sure the world saw the truth too. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of resilience and strength. I stood in the corner of my sister-in-law's extravagant living room, clutching my glass of wine tightly, as if it could protect me. The room hummed with laughter and chatter, family members celebrating our 10th wedding anniversary, and I could feel every moment pulling me further away from the warmth I once knew. I had spent hours preparing for this night, wearing the blue dress that John had always said he loved, but now it felt like an armor rather than a choice. My husband, John, moved through the room like a man on a mission, greeting family and friends with his usual polished smile and effortless charm. But as I watched him interact with his younger cousins, my eyes caught sight of something that made my stomach churn. His gaze lingering on Brittany, his secretary, who had somehow been invited to our family gathering. The last few months had been a slow, quiet unraveling. John had started staying late at work, missing dinners, and treating our home like a hotel, only there when it suited him. When he was around, his words cut through the air, sharper than they had ever been, each one leaving its mark. But tonight was supposed to be different. It was our anniversary, and I had hoped foolishly that we might finally find a way back to each other. I watched as Brittany laughed at something John whispered in her ear, his hand briefly resting on her lower back, unnoticed by everyone but me. The sight twisted something deep within me, and I took another sip of wine, trying to steady myself. "Everyone gather around!" John's voice rang out across the room. He stood near the fireplace, holding his glass high, that same confident smile I had once fallen in love with stretched across his face. "I'd like to make a toast to my lovely wife." His eyes met mine, but instead of the affection I had once seen there, all I could see now was a cold, almost contemptuous glint. I should have walked away right then, before he even opened his mouth, but I stayed. 10 years, John started, swirling his glass. 10 long years with Emily. There was something in the way he emphasized long that made several guests shift uncomfortably. I felt my sister-in-law Jessica's concerned gaze from across the room, but I couldn't look away from John. The weight of my diamond ring felt like a chain now, a reminder of everything that was slipping away. "You know," John continued, his smile growing sharper, "when I married Emily, she was quite the catch. Young, beautiful, full of life." My heart began to race, the words hanging in the air. "But time hasn't been kind to everyone, has it, honey?" Nervous laughter rippled through the room. I noticed Brittany, her smirk barely concealed behind her perfectly manicured hand. My cheeks burned, and I realized too late what was coming. "I mean, look at her now," John gestured toward me dramatically. "Standing there in that dress she bought years ago, pretending she can still pull it off." More uncomfortable laughter. "Honey, even department stores have a clearance section for outdated items." The wine glass in my hand shook as I fought to hold it together. I wanted to run, to scream, to throw something at his smug face, but instead, I stood there, frozen, as he publicly humiliated me. "But hey," John raised his glass higher, "at least she's consistent. Same old boring Emily with her little hobbies and simple dreams. While some of us," his eyes drifted to Brittany, "know how to stay young and exciting." The room fell into a painful silence. Even the guests who had laughed earlier now looked away, embarrassed. My brother-in-law Michael took a step forward, but John wasn't finished yet. "To my wife," he declared, his voice dripping with mockery, "who probably thought this was going to be a lovely anniversary celebration. Surprise, sweetheart. Consider this my gift to you. The truth. Nobody wants yesterday's news, especially not me." The sound of my wine glass shattering on the hardwood floor broke the silence. Red wine spread across the expensive flooring like blood, staining the hem of my blue dress, but I barely noticed. Everything had become crystal clear in that horrible moment. Without a word, I turned and walked toward the door. Behind me, I heard John's laugh, followed by Brittany's high-pitched giggle. "See?" he called out. "She can't even take a joke anymore." But I wasn't laughing, and I wasn't crying either. Something else was building inside me, something that would soon make John regret every word he'd just spoken. I drove through the dark streets with shaking hands, barely seeing the road through my blurred vision. I didn't even realize I was heading to my sister Ashley's house until I found myself parked in her driveway. The porch light flicked on before I could reach the door. "Emily!" Ashley appeared in her pajamas, her face changing from confusion to concern as she saw my state. "Oh my God, what happened?" I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. The humiliation of the past hour crashed over me like a wave, and my legs gave out. Ashley caught me before I could fall, pulling me into her warm embrace. I choked out. "John, at the party." The sobs I'd been holding back finally broke free. Ashley guided me inside to her cozy kitchen, the one place that had always felt safe since we were kids. She wrapped her favorite blanket around my shoulders and put the kettle on, our family's solution to every crisis. "I should have told you sooner," Ashley said quietly, placing a steaming mug of tea in front of me. "I've been seeing things, hearing things." I looked up at her, my hands clutching the warm mug. "What things?" Ashley sat down beside me, taking my hand. "Emily, he's been seeing his secretary, Brittany, for months. Everyone at his office knows." She squeezed my hand tighter. "I wanted to tell you, but I wasn't sure." The tea in my smicolak turned to ice. Brittany, the way they'd looked at each other during the party suddenly made horrible sense. "She was there tonight. They were laughing at me." "Ashley, in front of everyone! That bastard!" Ashley's voice shook with anger. "After everything you've done for him!" I stared into my tea, watching the ripples from my trembling hands. 10 years of marriage, of supporting his career, of trying to be the perfect wife, all thrown away for a younger woman. "What am I going to do?" I whispered, more to myself than to Ashley. My sister's response surprised me. "You're going to get even!" With shaking hands, I opened my phone the next morning. Ashley sat beside me on her worn leather couch, her presence giving me strength. "You need to see everything," she said softly. "No more hiding from the truth." I scrolled through John's social media, my heart pounding. There they were, dozens of photos I'd never seen before. John and Brittany at restaurants I'd never been to, her sitting at his desk after hours wearing his suit jacket, coffee dates, secret smiles, and lingering touches, all documented for anyone to see. "Look at the dates," Ashley pointed out. The oldest photo was from 6 months ago, right when John started working late, right when the cruel comments began, right when I stopped being good enough. "There's more," Ashley said, pulling up Brittany's profile. My smicolak churned as I saw what she'd posted just last night, hours after the party. "Some women just can't take a hint. Time to upgrade." The photo showed my husband's hand holding hers, my anniversary ring visible on his finger. "He didn't even take off his ring," I whispered, the final piece of cruel irony hitting me. "He humiliated me wearing the ring I gave him." Ashley wrapped her arm around my shoulders as fresh tears fell. "Emily, look at me," she said firmly. "You're not the one who should be ashamed. They are." Just then, my phone buzzed. A text from John. "You're being dramatic. Come home so we can talk about this like adults." Another buzz. "You're embarrassing yourself by running away." And another. "This is why we have problems. You can't handle anything anymore." I stared at the messages, seeing them for what they were, manipulation, pure and simple. Each word was designed to make me doubt myself, to crawl back to him. "You know what the worst part is?" I said, looking up at Ashley. "I believed I was the problem, that if I just tried harder, dressed better, stayed quieter." "That's what he wanted you to think," Ashley replied, taking my phone and placing it face down. "But now you know the truth. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" I sat in silence for a moment, something shifting inside me. The pain was still there, but something else was growing stronger. Anger, pure, justified anger. First, I said, my voice steadier than it had been all night. I'm going to call a lawyer. The next morning, as Ashley busied herself in the kitchen, I found myself staring into her hallway mirror. Dark circles under my eyes, pale skin. I looked exactly like the defeated woman John had always seen me as. But then, something caught my eye behind my reflection, a camera, sitting quietly on the bookshelf. You still have this? I asked, picking it up and feeling the familiar weight of it in my hands. Memories flooded back. Before John, before I gave up everything for his career, I had been a photographer. Not just any photographer, but one who was good, who loved capturing the world in a way that felt like magic. Of course, Ashley said with a soft smile, watching me turn the camera over. Remember how you used to light up behind that thing? You saw beauty in everything. Until John said it was just a hobby, I muttered, the sting of his dismissive words still fresh in my memory. Real careers make money, Emily. Stop playing around with that camera. Ashley set a cup of coffee in front of me and looked me straight in the eyes. You know, my friend Rachel is getting married next month. Her photographer just canceled. I looked up sharply. Ashley, I haven't shot anything in years. But you could, she insisted, her voice firm. The Emily I know is still in there, the one who made magic with that camera. Just then, my phone buzzed with a message from John. The house feels empty without you. I miss you. Then, immediately after. Though maybe it's time we both accept we're getting older. Changes happen. I turned off my phone, a clarity settling in. While I had been mourning my marriage, John was already trying to manipulate me again. Rachel's wedding, I said, the idea taking hold. Does she still need a photographer? Ashley's face lit up. Let me call her right now! Within the hour, I had my first client. 2 hours later, I was at the local camera shop getting my old equipment serviced. David, the owner, spent an hour with me, patiently helping me pick out new lenses. His kind eyes and gentle demeanor were a sharp contrast to John's constant criticism. You've got a good eye, David commented, looking through some of my old work. These are special. For the first time in years, I felt a spark of pride not in being someone's wife, but in my own talent, in what I had done with my own hands. As I left the shop with my equipment, David called after me. We have a weekly photography group that meets here. You should join us sometime. Maybe I will, I replied, feeling lighter than I had in months. Rachel's wedding turned out to be just the beginning. Her photos went viral on social media, and suddenly my phone was buzzing for a different reason. Booking requests. Ashley helped me set up a business page, and within weeks, I had more clients than I could handle. One afternoon, as I was editing photos at Ashley's house, David from the camera shop stopped by with some equipment I'd ordered. He paused when he saw my work on the laptop screen. You found your style again, he said, leaning in to look closer. The way you capture emotions. It's rare. I smiled, a sense of fulfillment bubbling inside me. For the first time in years, I was living for me, not for someone else. I felt my cheeks warm at his genuine praise, so different from John's backhanded compliments. Before he left, David mentioned again about the photography group. This time, I said yes. That's when John decided to make his move. He showed up at Ashley's house unannounced, Brittany waiting in his car. The old me would have hidden inside, but I had clients waiting and a photography session to prepare for. Emily, he called out as I loaded my equipment into my car. You're being childish, running around with that camera again. Really? I straightened up, meeting his eyes. I'm not running, John. I'm working. Working? He laughed, that cruel laugh I knew so well. Taking pictures at birthday parties isn't work. Come home. We can fix this. So, I saw Brittany shift uncomfortably in his car, checking her phone. Looking at them both, I finally saw the truth. They deserved each other. No, John, I said calmly, closing my car trunk. We can't fix this, but I'm fixing myself. His face darkened. You'll regret this. You're nothing without me. Who's going to want a middle-aged woman with a camera? I smiled, thinking of my growing client list, of David's encouraging words, of the confidence I'd found behind my lens. That's where you're wrong. I'm not nothing. I never was. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of John's stunned face in my rearview mirror. My phone started buzzing with his messages, but I didn't need to read them anymore. I had a wedding to shoot, a photography group to join, and a new life to build. For the first time since that horrible party, I felt truly free. But I wasn't finished yet. 2 months later, I sat in my makeshift studio at Ashley's house looking at the invitation in my hands. Our cousin Amy was hosting a big family reunion. Everyone would be there, including John and Brittany. "You don't have to go," Ashley said, watching me carefully. But I had already made up my mind. "I do." I picked up my camera, a spark of an idea igniting inside me. "And I'm going to be the photographer," I said with determination. Ashley's eyes widened in disbelief, but soon understanding flickered in them. "Emily, are you sure?" she asked, concern tinging her voice. I opened my laptop and pulled up the folder I'd been carefully compiling over the last few weeks. Screenshots of John's messages to other women, not just Brittany. There were bank statements showing payments for hotels and lavish gifts, and photos from my clients who worked at his company capturing compromising moments of John and Brittany. "Remember how John loves an audience?" I said calmly as I scrolled through the evidence. "How he needed everyone watching when he humiliated me?" Just then, David knocked on the open door, holding the special lenses I'd asked for. "Hey, I brought those lenses you wanted," he said, noticing the tension in the air. "Everything okay?" I showed him the invitation. "I'm going to give my husband exactly what he wants, an audience." David sat down beside me, his hand finding mine. Over the past few months, he had become more than just a mentor. He understood my need for justice, but also my need to do it on my own terms. "Just promise me one thing," David said softly, his voice full of care. "Do this for yourself, not for him." I squeezed his hand, grateful for his unwavering support. "That's exactly why I'm doing it. My camera tells the truth, David. It's time everyone sees John's truth." We spent the next week meticulously planning every detail. I prepared a slideshow of my recent work. Weddings, family portraits, and events, beautiful moments that showcased my success. But hidden within the collection were the photos that told a different story, the ones that exposed who John really was. The night before the reunion, I stood in front of the mirror, feeling a sense of transformation. Gone was the insecure woman in the blue dress. In her place was a stronger version of myself, someone who had rediscovered her power, all through the lens of her camera. My phone buzzed with a text from John. "Heard you're photographing Michael Laro. Try not to embarrass yourself." I smiled at his message. He still thought he held all the power, but what he didn't realize was that tomorrow, everyone would see the truth through my lens. The family reunion was already in full swing when I arrived, camera in hand. I could feel John's eyes following me as I moved through the crowd, snapping photos of happy families and laughing children. "Well, look who's playing photographer." John's voice cut through the chatter, dripping with sarcasm. "How cute." Brittany giggled beside him, wearing a dress that seemed far too youthful for the occasion. I simply smiled, focusing on my work. Click. John's hand on Brittany's waist. Click. His wedding ring still gleaming under the light. Click. Their matching smug expressions, unaware of the storm I was quietly capturing. Finally, Cousin Amy stood up, announcing that it was time for the slideshow I'd prepared. "Emily's been kind enough to share some of her recent work with us," she said, dimming the lights in the room. The first few images that appeared on the screen were filled with gasps of admiration. Wedding photos, graduation portraits, and family moments, all showcasing the beauty I'd captured in the last few months. But I watched John's face closely as his smirk slowly began to fade. He knew what was coming. Then came the other photos. Click. John and Brittany leaving a hotel. Click. Bank statements showing jewelry purchases. Jewelry Brittany was wearing right now. Click. Messages to other women, each one dated during our marriage. The room fell silent. Brittany stepped away from John, her face pale. "You said your wife knew. You said she was okay with us." I stepped forward, my voice clear and strong. 10 years ago, I married a man who convinced me I was nothing without him. 2 months ago, he humiliated me at our anniversary party. I looked directly at John, but he forgot something important. A photographer's job is to show the truth. John lunged for the laptop, but David was faster, stepping between us. "Don't," he said quietly, his presence steady beside me. "You had your audience last time." I continued. "Now it's my turn. I'm filing for divorce, John, and thanks to these photos, I don't think your company will be too happy about your relationship with your secretary." The whispers started. Family members turned away from John. Brittany grabbed her purse and practically ran from the room. But I wasn't finished. "Oh, and one more thing," I said, picking up my camera. "I'm not just playing photographer. I own a successful studio now, which means I can afford a really good lawyer." John's face turned red with rage, but he had no power here. Not anymore. As he stormed out, I felt nothing but relief. The truth had finally come out through my lens. The weeks following the family reunion passed in a blur of sweet justice. John's company launched an investigation after receiving copies of my photos. Both he and Brittany were asked to resign. His carefully built reputation crumbled as quickly as our marriage had. I moved out of Ashley's house and into my own apartment above my new photography studio. David helped me paint the walls and set up my equipment, our hands brushing together as we worked. We didn't need to rush anything. We both knew we had all the time in the world. One morning, while I was editing wedding photos, my lawyer called. John had signed the divorce papers without a fight. His last message to me read, "You've ruined everything." I smiled, remembering how those words would have crushed me months ago. Now they felt like freedom. "You okay?" David asked, bringing me my favorite coffee. I looked around my studio, at the beautiful photos on the walls, proof of my talent and hard work. Through my window, I could see clients arriving for their sessions, excited to have their stories told through my lens. "You know what?" I said, taking David's hand. "I am." My phone buzzed with another booking request. Life was moving forward, better than before. The woman John had tried to shame at that party was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone who had learned to see her worth through the lens of her camera. 1 year later, I stood in my expanded studio, adjusting my camera for an upcoming wedding shoot. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd become one of the most sought-after wedding photographers in town. My photos didn't just capture moments. They told stories of real love, the kind I'd finally found for myself. David walked in with 2 cups of coffee, just like he did every morning since we'd moved in together. As he kissed my cheek, I caught our reflection in the studio window, both of us smiling, both of us genuinely happy. Last week, I heard John had tried to reconcile with Brittany, only to find she'd moved on with someone closer to her age. He'd sent me one final message. "I miss who we were." I didn't respond. That chapter of my life was closed. My story could have ended at that family party with tears and humiliation. Instead, it became a story of rediscovery, strength, and true love through my camera lens. I hadn't just captured other people's happiness, I'd found my own. Now, when I photograph weddings, I always tell my brides the same thing. Make sure the person beside you loves you enough to celebrate your success, not tear you down. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting better. Have you ever reached the point where everything you thought you knew about your life, your marriage, and your worth shatters in an instant? Emily's world came crashing down at her 10th wedding anniversary party, where her husband, John, humiliated her in front of family and friends. His cruel toast, mocking her appearance and belittling her dreams, was the catalyst for her awakening. It wasn't just an embarrassing moment, it was the wake-up call she needed to see her marriage for what it really was. The truth? She had been nothing more than an accessory to John's ego, and Brittany, his secretary, was just the final insult. But Emily didn't just accept defeat. After an emotional breakdown at her sister Ashley's house, she found the strength to rediscover herself. With her camera in hand, she decided to document the truth not just of her marriage's destruction, but of her journey to rebuild. With Ashley's support and a series of brutal discoveries, Emily moved forward, taking control of her life in ways she never thought possible. What started as a painful chapter became a powerful turning point. By documenting John's lies and betrayal, Emily turned the tables on him, showing the world his true colors. Through her lens, Emily not only reclaimed her identity, but also built a thriving photography business, proving that sometimes the best revenge is simply thriving and growing. As she stood before her camera, capturing true love and joy for others, she realized that she had finally found happiness in herself, far beyond John's reach. What would you do if you were in Emily's shoes? Would you find the strength to rise, or would you let the pain define you? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more empowering stories.
The train ticket trembled in my hand as I stood on the platform, my entire life packed into two oversized suitcases. Behind me, I could still hear Ishmael's taunting voice echoing through 15 years of torment. Wide load coming through. The memory made me grip the ticket tighter, my knuckles turning white. I'm Gwendolyn, and this was the day I decided to stop being the family punching bag. Gwen, my mother's voice cut through the station noise. I turned to see her rushing towards me, her face flushed. You're being dramatic. Come home, and we'll talk about this like adults. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Like adults? When have any of you treated me like an adult? Just yesterday, during what was supposed to be my graduation celebration dinner, Ishmael had made yet another fat joke. Better order 2 chairs for Gwen, he'd said, loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. Dad had chuckled. Mom had pursed her lips in that way she always did, pretending she hadn't heard anything. Your brother just jokes around, Mom said now, reaching for my arm. That's what siblings do. I stepped back, keeping her at arm's length. No, Mom, that's what bullies do. You're being sensitive, she insisted. What will people think? Your father is respected in this community. How will it look when they find out his daughter ran away? The train whistle blew, and I felt a surge of relief. That's exactly the problem, I said, picking up my bags. You're more worried about what people will think than how I feel. Gwendolyn! This time it was my father's voice, authoritative and stern. He was striding across the platform, Ishmael trailing behind him with that smirk I'd grown to hate. Look who's finally grown a backbone, Ishmael called out. Though it's hard to see under all that. Finish that sentence, I snapped, surprising even myself with the venom in my voice. I dare you. For once, Ishmael fell silent. Young lady, you will come home this instant, Dad commanded, using the same tone that had cowed me countless times before. This behavior is unacceptable. No, what's unacceptable is how you've let him treat me, I said, gesturing toward Ishmael. What's unacceptable is how you've all pretended it wasn't happening. What's unacceptable is that I had to get straight A's, join every club, and win every competition just to feel like I was worth something, while he got praise just for existing. The train doors opened with a hiss. Other passengers began boarding, giving our family drama a wide berth. You're my daughter, Dad said, his voice softening slightly. Of course you're worth something. Really? Then why didn't you ever stand up for me? My voice cracked, but I forced myself to continue. Why didn't you stop him? Why didn't anyone stop him? Mom started crying, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. We love you, sweetheart. We just didn't want to make things worse. Worse than what? I asked, stepping onto the train. Worse than making your daughter feel worthless in her own home? Come on, Gwen, Ishmael said, rolling his eyes. You're being ridiculous. It was just jokes. Jokes are supposed to be funny, I replied, my voice steady now. And one day, Ishmael, you're going to learn that actions have consequences. The doors began to close. Dad moved forward, but it was too late. If you leave like this, he warned, don't expect to come back. I met his eyes through the glass. That's the plan. As the train pulled away, I watched my family grow smaller on the platform. Mom was still crying. Dad looked angry, and Ishmael was laughing, probably already thinking about how he'd tell this story to his friends. My cousin Barrett had slipped me the contact information for his friend in the city, promising me a place to stay until I got on my feet. It wasn't much, but it was more support than I'd gotten from my immediate family in years. I found my seat and pulled out my phone, deleting my family's numbers one by one. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. They say success is the best revenge, and I was going to succeed so spectacularly that they'd choke on their words. The countryside began to blur past the window, and with each mile, I felt the weight of their expectations and judgment lifting from my shoulders. I was done being the fat sister, the embarrassment, the family joke. From now on, I would write my own story, and I promised myself, the next time they saw me, they wouldn't be laughing. Girl, you're not thinking big enough. Georgia's voice boomed across our tiny dorm room as she paced, her curly hair bouncing with each step. We're not just talking about opening another basic gym. We're talking about revolutionizing how people think about wellness. I looked up from my business textbook, raising an eyebrow. It had been 2 years since I'd stepped off that train, and meeting Georgia in Business 101 had changed everything. She was the first person who saw me, really saw me, not just my size. Revolution sounds expensive, I said, closing my book. And in case you haven't noticed, we're broke college students. Georgia flopped onto my bed, nearly knocking over my laptop. That's where you're wrong. We have something better than money. We have perspective. You've lived both sides of this story, Gwen. You know what it's like to feel judged, to feel like you don't belong in those fancy fitness spaces. I flinched, remembering the time Ishmael had bought me a gym membership for Christmas, wrapping it in front of the entire family. Thanks for the trauma flashback. No, listen. Georgia sat up, her eyes sparkling with excitement. That's exactly what I mean. What if we created a space where nobody feels judged, where wellness isn't about fitting into some perfect mold, but about feeling strong and confident? My phone buzzed. Another ignored call from Mom. 3 months ago, she'd started her campaign to bring me to my senses. I declined the call. Someone from home? Georgia asked softly. Just spam, I lied, then changed the subject. So tell me more about this revolution of yours. Georgia jumped up and grabbed her notebook. Picture this, a wellness company that focuses on mental health as much as physical health, classes, coaching, community support, but with zero shame, zero judgment, and you're the perfect person to lead it. I snorted. Me? The girl who couldn't even stand up to her own brother until 2 years ago? Exactly you. Georgia grabbed my shoulders. Because you understand what it feels like to be on the outside. You know what people need to hear, what they need to feel. Plus, you're literally acing every business class we take. Just then, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from my cousin Barrett. Heads up, Ishmael just got promoted at the bank. Mom says Aunt Jessica won't shut up about it. Everything okay? Georgia asked, noticing my expression. I showed her the text. Golden Boy strikes again, probably didn't even earn it. Dad's golf buddy is on the board. Georgia read the text, then looked at me with that determined expression I'd come to know well. You know what? This is perfect timing. While they're all celebrating his mediocrity, we're going to build something amazing. She grabbed her laptop and opened a new document. Let's do this right now. What would you have wanted to hear when you were at your lowest? What would have made you feel strong instead of broken? For the next few hours, we brainstormed. The ideas flowed faster than we could type them. By midnight, our vision had taken shape. Empowered Wellness, a company that would combine physical fitness with emotional healing. We'll need startup capital, I said, finally allowing myself to believe this could be real. Already thought of that, Georgia grinned. Remember Professor Martinez, the one who keeps praising your business proposals? He runs a startup incubator. I may have already mentioned our idea to him. You what? He wants to meet with us next week. Georgia looked entirely too pleased with herself. Said something about how the wellness industry is ready for disruption? I sat back, my mind racing. This is crazy. We're still students. Mark Zuckerberg was a student when he started Facebook, Georgia countered. And you're twice as smart as him. My phone buzzed again. Another family update from Barrett. Ishmael just bought a new BMW. Wouldn't stop bragging about it at Sunday dinner. I stared at the message, feeling something shift inside me. All my life I'd tried to shrink myself, to take up less space, to be less noticeable. But maybe Georgia was right. Maybe it was time to do the opposite. Okay, I said, straightening my shoulders. Let's do it. Let's build something that would have helped that scared girl on the train platform 2 years ago. Georgia squealed and hugged me. That's my girl. And hey, who knows? Maybe one day your brother will need a job and you'll be the one in charge. We both laughed at the absurdity of it. After all, Ishmael was the successful one, the one with the banking career and the fancy car. The idea that he'd ever need my help seemed impossible, but life, as I would learn, has a funny way of evening the score. And that's why Empowered Wellness is projecting a 40% growth this quarter, I concluded, standing before our board of directors. Any questions? The boardroom remained silent, impressed by our latest numbers. 5 years after that late-night brainstorming session with Georgia, we'd grown from a startup to a national wellness brand with 20 locations across the country. After the meeting, Georgia caught up with me in my office. Killing it as usual, CEO, she said, now my chief operating officer and still my best friend. Though you might want to check your email. Your cousin Barrett's been trying to reach you all morning. I opened my laptop, finding 3 urgent messages from Barrett. Before I could read them, my office phone rang. Gwen, thank God, Barrett's voice came through. Have you seen the news about Metropolitan Bank? My stomach dropped. That was Ishmael's bank. No, what happened? Major layoffs. They're cutting 30% of their workforce. Ishmael, he's one of them. I sat back in my chair, letting that sink in. How bad is it? Bad, Barrett sighed. He's been living way above his means. The BMW, the penthouse apartment, the expensive habits. He's got maybe 2 months of savings, tops. Georgia, who'd been pretending not to listen, raised an eyebrow. That's not all, Barrett continued. Remember that golf buddy of Uncle Abraham's who got Ishmael the job? Retired last year. Ishmael's been coasting, and well, his performance reviews weren't great. Nobody's jumping to hire him. I rubbed my temples. Why are you telling me this, Barrett? Because he's going to reach out to you, soon, and I thought you should be prepared. As if on cue, my email pinged. From Ishmael Emerson. Subject, can we talk? Speak of the devil, I muttered. He just emailed me. What are you going to do? Barrett asked. I stared at the email notification. I'll let you know when I figure it out. Thanks for the heads up. After hanging up, I opened Ishmael's email. Gwen, I know we haven't spoken in years. I've been seeing news about your company's success. I'm in a tough spot and could really use your help. Could we meet? Ishmael. Well, Georgia said, reading over my shoulder. How the mighty have fallen. He doesn't even apologize, I noted. Typical. Are you going to meet him? I spun in my chair to face the wall-to-wall windows of my corner office. Below, the city sprawled out, filled with empowered wellness billboards featuring people of all sizes celebrating their strength. We'd built this company on the principle that everyone deserves respect, regardless of their appearance or background. You know what's ironic? I said. We're actually hiring for several positions right now. Georgia's eyes widened. Oh, no. You can't seriously be considering? We pride ourselves on giving people second chances, I replied, turning back to my computer. It would be hypocritical to exclude my own brother. Your brother who tormented you for years, who never apologized, who might finally learn what it feels like to be on the other side, I finished. Besides, we have the strictest anti-bullying policies in the industry. One wrong move and HR will have his head. Georgia crossed her arms. I don't like it, but I trust you. Just promise me one thing. What's that? Make him work for it. Really work for it. I smiled, already composing my reply. Ishmael, I can meet you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Come to the Empowered Wellness Headquarters, 47th floor. Ask for me at reception. Gwendolyn. Short, professional, no hint of emotion. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. You're really doing this, Georgia said, shaking her head. I'm really doing this. I pulled up our company directory. Get Kayla from HR in here. If we're doing this, we're doing it by the book. As Georgia left to fetch Kayla, I found myself staring at the framed magazine cover on my wall. 30 Under 30, Gwendolyn Reshapes Wellness Industry. The article had called me a visionary, praised our inclusive approach, highlighted our success. My phone buzzed. A text from Barrett. He's telling everyone you agreed to meet. Mom and Dad are already talking about how family always comes through. Be careful. I texted back, trust me, because while they were all assuming I'd give Ishmael an executive position, something worthy of the golden child, I had other plans. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and I was finally in a position to deliver it. The question was, would Ishmael be humble enough to accept what I was about to offer? At exactly 2 p.m., my assistant buzzed. Your brother is here. I took a deep breath. Send him in. The door opened, and for a moment I didn't recognize him. Gone was the designer suit and cocky smile. Ishmael looked deflated. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair unkempt, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. Gwen, he said, then corrected himself. Gwendolyn, thank you for meeting with me. Have a seat. I gestured to the chair across from my desk, noticing how his eyes darted around my office, taking in the awards, the view, the obvious success. He sat fidgeting with his watch, the expensive one he'd bragged about on social media last year. You've done well for yourself. I have, I replied simply. Barrett mentioned you're looking for work. His face flushed. I didn't realize you were in touch with Barrett. There's a lot you don't realize. I kept my voice neutral. Tell me why you're here, Ishmael. He shifted uncomfortably. Look, I know we haven't exactly been close. That's one way to put it. I made mistakes, he admitted, though the words seemed to pain him. I was young, immature. You were cruel, I corrected. Deliberately and consistently cruel. For years. His jaw tightened. Is that why you agreed to meet? To remind me what a terrible brother I was? No. I pressed a button on my phone. Kayla, could you join us? Moments later, Kayla from HR entered, tablet in hand. Ishmael straightened in his chair, obviously expecting an introduction to a potential colleague. Kayla is our HR manager, I explained. She'll be conducting your interview. Interview? Ishmael's eyes widened. I thought, given our relationship, I cut in. You should be grateful I'm considering you at all. We have an entry-level position open in our customer service department. Starting salary is $42,000 a year, with benefits after 90 days. The color drained from his face. 42? Gwen, I was making 6 figures at the bank. And now you're making 0. I stood up. Kayla will interview you. If she thinks you're suitable, and if you're willing to start at the bottom like everyone else, we'll have you shadow our top customer service representative for 2 weeks. After that, assuming you meet our standards, we'll discuss a permanent position. This is ridiculous, he sputtered. I have an MBA. So do half our employees, I replied. The difference is, they earned their positions. They weren't handed them by Dad's golf buddies. That hit home. He slumped in his chair, the fight leaving him. I can't survive on 42,000. Then sell the BMW, downsize your apartment, do what normal people do when they need to rebuild. I moved toward the door. The choice is yours. Take the interview or leave. But if you leave, don't expect another offer. As I reached for the handle, he spoke again. Wait. His voice cracked. I'll take the interview. I turned back. One more thing, we have strict policies about workplace behavior. Any form of bullying, harassment, or discrimination will result in immediate termination. No exceptions, no matter who your sister is. Are we clear? He nodded, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Good luck, I said, and left him with Kayla. Georgia was waiting in the adjacent conference room, watching through the one-way glass. That was ice cold, she said admiringly. Think he'll actually go through with it? He's desperate enough. I watched as Kayla began the interview. And he needs to learn. Learn what? That actions have consequences. That you can't treat people like garbage and expect them to help you. That maybe, just maybe, the little sister he tormented grew up to be someone worth respecting. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Heard you're giving Ishmael a job. So proud of you for helping family. I showed it to Georgia, who rolled her eyes. They still don't get it, do they? They will, I said, watching Ishmael struggle through Kayla's behavioral interview questions. Eventually. An hour later, Kayla came to find me. He's qualified, technically speaking, but he'll need a lot of coaching on emotional intelligence and customer service skills. And I think it might be good for him. She smiled. Nothing teaches empathy like having to help people all day while saying thank you and please. I nodded. Set him up with training. And Kayla, make sure his trainer is Emiliano. Kayla's eyes sparkled with understanding. Emiliano was not only our best customer service rep, but also a former fitness model who'd left the industry after experiencing body shaming. He'd be perfect for teaching Ishmael about respect and dignity. Sometimes revenge isn't about hurting someone. Sometimes it's about forcing them to grow. Welcome to our annual company retreat, I announced to the gathered employees at the mountain resort. This year's theme is breaking barriers, building bridges. From my position on the small stage, I could see Ishmael in the back row, sitting alone. 3 weeks into his customer service training, and the reports from Emiliano had been surprisingly positive. Though he'd struggled initially, he hadn't complained or quit. After the opening ceremony, Georgia nudged me. Heads up, your brother's heading this way. Ishmael approached cautiously, wearing the same company t-shirt as everyone else, a far cry from his designer suits. Can we talk? Privately? I nodded, following him to a quiet corner of the resort's garden. The mountain air was crisp, and somewhere in the distance, a bird called. I get it now, he said quietly, staring at the ground. What you're doing? Do you? The first week, I had a customer. He swallowed hard. She was crying because her previous gym had kicked her out for not losing weight fast enough. She reminded me of you back then, and I realized I was just like those people who hurt her. I stayed silent, letting him continue. Emiliano told me about his modeling days, about the pressure to look perfect. He said something that hit home. The people who hurt others are usually the ones most afraid of being hurt themselves. Were you afraid, Ishmael? I asked, genuinely curious. He laughed bitterly. Terrified. Dad had such high expectations. If I wasn't perfect, I was nothing. So I made sure everyone looked at you instead of me. That's not an excuse. No, he agreed. It's not. I was cruel, and I can't change that. But watching you now, the way you've built this company, how you treat people, how they respect you, I'm sorry, Gwen. I'm so sorry. A group of employees walked past, laughing about the upcoming team-building activities. One called out, Great customer satisfaction scores this week, Ishmael. He smiled, looking surprised at the recognition. That's another thing. Here, people care about what you do, not who you know or how you look. That's the whole point, I said. Everyone deserves respect. Everyone deserves a chance to prove themselves. Even terrible brothers? Especially terrible brothers who are trying to change. Suddenly, Emiliano's voice called out from behind us. Sorry to interrupt, but we need our star customer service trainee for the trust fall exercises. I watched as Ishmael's face shifted from embarrassment to determination. Coming. He turned back to me. Thank you, Gwen, not for the job, but for for showing me a better way. As he walked away with Emiliano, Georgia appeared at my side. Well, that was unexpected. Think he means it? Look, I pointed to where Ishmael was now helping a plus-size employee adjust her safety harness for the trust fall, showing genuine patience and care. That's not the same person who used to moo at me in high school hallways. My phone buzzed. Dad calling. I declined it. Still not ready? Georgia asked. They need to understand first, I said. Really understand. Later that evening, during the campfire session, I watched as Ishmael voluntarily stood up to share during the Moments of Growth segment. I used to be someone else, he began, his voice shaking. Someone who thought putting others down made me bigger. Someone who hurt the person who should have been my closest ally. My sister. The crowd grew quiet. Most knew I was his sister, but no one had heard the full story. But working here, seeing how strength comes from lifting others up, not tearing them down, it's changed me. To my sister, he looked directly at me. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm grateful for the chance to earn it. The silence was deafening. Then Emiliano started clapping, and others joined in. I felt tears pricking at my eyes but held them back. After the session, Emiliano approached me. You know, when you asked me to train him, I thought you were crazy. But he's actually becoming one of our best advocates for body positivity and respect. People can surprise you, I replied, watching Ishmael chat with a group of colleagues, his posture relaxed, genuine. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Barrett. Mom says Ishmael hasn't been to Sunday dinner in weeks. Says he's always working or studying customer service manuals. What did you do to him? I smiled, typing back. I didn't do anything. He's doing it himself. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's giving someone the opportunity to face their own reflection and choose to become better. The question was, would it last? He's having trouble with Marcus from accounting. Kayla reported during our weekly HR meeting. Apparently, Marcus knew someone who worked with Ishmael at the bank. I set down my coffee. What happened? Marcus has been sharing stories about how Ishmael used to treat junior employees. It's creating tension in the break room. Georgia, who'd been quietly typing notes, looked up. Should we intervene? Before I could answer, there was a knock at my office door. Emiliano entered, looking concerned. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to hear this. He played a recording from that morning's customer service call monitoring. Ishmael's voice came through, remarkably patient as he handled an irate customer. Sir, I understand your frustration, he was saying. I used to judge people based on their appearance too, but I was wrong, and I hurt people I cared about because of it. Maybe this is a chance for both of us to learn. The customer's tone gradually shifted from hostile to reflective. By the end of the call, he'd signed up for our inclusive fitness program. That's the third call like this week, Emiliano said. He's turning our most difficult customers into advocates. While being ostracized by his coworkers, Kayla added. I stood up, walking to the window. Where is he now? Break room, Emiliano replied. It's not pretty. I headed down to the 10th floor, where I could hear raised voices before I even reached the break room. Must be nice, Marcus was saying, having your sister own the company. Is that how you got away with treating people like garbage at the bank, too? I'm not that person anymore. Ishmael's voice was quiet but firm. People don't change, Marcus scoffed. They just get better at hiding who they really are. I stepped into the room. Everyone froze. Actually, Marcus, I said, people do change. When they want to, when they work at it, when they face consequences and learn from them. Marcus straightened. Ms. Gwendolyn, Tell me, I cut him off. Did you know I was fat in high school? The room went silent. I was, and Ishmael, he was my biggest bully. Made my life hell. So believe me, I understand your skepticism, but I also believe in what we stand for here. Growth, change, second chances. I turned to address the whole room. Yes, Ishmael is my brother. No, that's not why he's here. He started at the bottom, just like everyone else. And yes, he used to be exactly who you think he was. But the man standing here now, he's choosing to be better. Isn't that what we tell our clients every day? That it's never too late to change? Marcus looked down, embarrassed. I'm sorry, I heard stories. The stories are probably true, Ishmael said. I was awful, entitled, cruel. I can't change that past, but I can choose who I am now. Just then, my phone rang. Mom again. For the first time in months, I answered. Gwendolyn, finally. We haven't seen Ishmael at family dinner in 2 months. What are you doing to him? I put the phone on speaker. Nothing, Mom. He's choosing this. Choosing what? To work in customer service? It's beneath him. Your father's friends are asking questions. Mom, Ishmael interrupted, loud enough for her to hear. Stop. This job isn't beneath me. Nothing about helping people is beneath anyone. Ishmael, what are you saying? I'm saying I'm learning more here than I ever did at the bank. I'm saying I'm finally becoming someone I can be proud of. The line went quiet. Then, this isn't like you. No, he agreed. It's not like the old me, and that's good. I ended the call looking around the break room. Every face showed a mixture of surprise and respect. Back to work, everyone, I said softly. As people filed out, I caught Ishmael's arm. You okay? He nodded. You know what's weird? For the first time in my life, I don't care what they think. Mom, Dad, their friends. I care about what I think of myself. That's called growth, Emiliano said, appearing in the doorway. And speaking of growth, we have a team meeting about the new sensitivity training program. You're leading it, remember? Ishmael's eyes widened. Me? Who better to teach about the impact of words than someone who's learned it firsthand? As I watched Ishmael follow Emiliano, Georgia appeared beside me. You know, she said, this revenge plan of yours might have backfired. How so? Instead of making him suffer, you might have actually helped him become a decent human being. I smiled. Maybe that's the best revenge of all. Ladies and gentlemen, Ishmael stood at the podium during our quarterly all-hands meeting. 6 months ago, I sat where you're sitting, thinking I was too good for this job. I couldn't have been more wrong. The auditorium was packed with employees from all our locations, gathered for our biggest announcement yet. Georgia squeezed my hand as Ishmael continued. Many of you know I'm the CEO's brother. What you might not know is that I used to be her biggest bully. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I was the kind of person who made others feel small to make myself feel big. The kind of person who thought appearance determined worth. He paused, taking a deep breath. But life has a way of teaching us lessons. When I lost my banking job, I thought it was the worst thing that could happen to me. Instead, it was the best, because it brought me here, where I learned what real strength looks like. From my seat in the front row, I watched our employees' faces. Many were nodding, some were wiping tears. Yesterday we hit a milestone, Ishmael announced. Our customer satisfaction scores are the highest in the industry. Not because we're perfect, but because we understand struggle. We understand growth. We understand second chances. Georgia stood up, and that's why we're excited to announce our new initiative, Second Chances Program. Ishmael, would you like to explain? He smiled. We're partnering with rehabilitation centers and unemployment offices to offer job training and placement services because everyone deserves the chance I got, the chance to become better. The applause was deafening. As Ishmael stepped down, my phone lit up with a text from Dad. Saw the company live stream. We need to talk. Before I could respond, another message came through from Mom. Your father and I are in the lobby. My heart stopped. Georgia saw my face and grabbed my phone. Oh shit, she whispered. Want me to get security? No, I said, standing. It's time. I found them by the reception desk, Dad in his golf clothes, Mom clutching her designer purse. They looked out of place among our diverse, casually dressed employees. What are you doing here? I asked. We saw the broadcast, Dad said stiffly. Wanted to see this operation for ourselves. Gwendolyn, Ishmael's voice called out. He jogged over, then stopped short. Mom? Dad? Look at you, Mom said, eyeing his company polo and khakis. Working in customer service. What will people think? They'll think I'm doing honest work, Ishmael replied. Making a difference. A difference? Dad scoffed. By helping fat people feel good about themselves? The lobby went quiet. I saw Emiliano step forward, but Ishmael held up a hand. No, Dad, he said firmly. By helping people understand their worth isn't determined by their size, their background, or their father's golf buddies. How dare you, Dad started, but Ishmael continued. I used to be just like you, judgmental, cruel, caring more about appearances than actual worth. But Gwen, he looked at me. She gave me a chance to learn better, to be better. By humiliating you? Mom demanded. By showing me respect, Ishmael corrected. Something I never showed her, something you never taught me to show her. Dad's face reddened. We gave you everything. You gave me permission to be awful. I finally spoke up. You taught him it was okay to hurt me as long as he looked good doing it. We never, Mom began. You did, Ishmael interrupted. Every time you laughed at my jokes, every time you told her to toughen up, every time you chose my success over her pain, security had quietly positioned themselves nearby, but they weren't needed. Dad looked around the lobby, at the employees watching, at the wall of success stories showing transformations both physical and emotional. This is really what you want? He asked Ishmael. To work for your little sister? No, Ishmael said. I want to work with my sister. There's a difference. And yes, this is exactly what I want. Mom started crying. Dad put his arm around her, looking lost. I think you should go, I said quietly. But when you're ready to really talk about everything, you know where to find us. As they left, Emiliano approached. You okay? Actually, I said, surprised to find it was true. I am. Both of us are. Ishmael nodded. For the first time, I feel free. Georgia appeared with a tablet. Well, good, because the Second Chances program already has 50 applications. Ready to review them? Together? Ishmael asked me. I smiled. Together. Because sometimes karma doesn't just come full circle. It opens up entirely new paths, leading to places you never expected to find healing. And the Wellness Industry Innovation Award goes to Empowered Wellness's Second Chances program. The ballroom erupted in applause as Ishmael and I walked to the stage together. Under the bright lights, I could see our team cheering: Georgia, Emiliano, Kayla, and dozens of others who'd made this possible. "Thank you," I began, gripping the podium. "But the real winners are our program participants. People who, like my brother and me, discovered that change isn't just possible, it's transformative." Ishmael stepped forward. "When my sister offered me a job, I thought it was revenge. Instead, it was redemption. And now we've helped over 500 people find their own path to redemption." As we left the stage, Georgia rushed up with her phone. "Your parents just posted on LinkedIn. You might want to see this." The post showed a photo of us accepting the award with the caption, "Proud of our children, Gwendolyn and Ishmael, for showing us what real success looks like. We were wrong. We're learning." Proud parents, or second chances. "They posted that publicly?" Ishmael whispered. "There's more." Georgia scrolled down. "They've signed up for our family counseling program." I felt my throat tighten. "When?" "This morning. Your dad specifically requested Marcus as their wellness coach." I couldn't help but laugh. Marcus, who'd once confronted Ishmael about his past, had become one of our most effective counselors for families dealing with body-shaming issues. "Speaking of family," Emiliano appeared, straightening his tie. "Your cousin Barrett is here, and he brought guests." Barrett emerged from the crowd, followed by Mom and Dad. They looked different, humbler somehow. Dad wasn't wearing his usual golf attire, and Mom's designer purse was nowhere in sight. "We watched the live stream of your speech," Dad said, his voice rough, "about how parents can either enable growth or enable destruction." "It hit home," Mom added, twisting her hands. "We've been doing a lot of thinking. A lot of talking, too," Barrett chimed in. "They haven't missed a single counseling session." I felt Ishmael tense beside me. And we're sorry," Dad said, the words seeming to cost him physical effort. "We're sorry for creating an environment where cruelty was celebrated, where appearance mattered more than character." "We're learning," Mom added. "It's not easy facing your mistakes, but you two, you showed us it's possible." Georgia cleared her throat. "The press wants photos of the award winners. Should I tell them to wait?" "No," I said, surprising everyone. "Actually, let's do a family photo, all of us, including Barrett, who never gave up on any of us." As we posed, I heard whispers in the crowd. Everyone knew our story. It had become part of the company's legend. The bully brother, the hurt sister, the transformation that sparked a movement. "One more thing," Dad said after the photos. "We'd like to invest in the Second Chances program. Not to control it," he added quickly, seeing my expression, "but to help it reach more families like ours." Ishmael looked at me. "Your call, CEO." I studied our parents' faces, seeing something I'd never seen before: genuine humility. "Okay," I said, "but you'll need to go through the proper channels, starting with a meeting with our head of family services." "Who's that?" Mom asked. Ishmael grinned. "Me, as of this morning." Their surprise turned to pride. Real pride, not the superficial kind they'd once valued. Later, as the event wound down, I found myself on the venue's balcony with Emiliano. Below, I could see Ishmael explaining our program to a group of investors, his passion evident in every gesture. "You know," Emiliano said, "when you hired me to train him, I thought you were either crazy or cruel. And now? Now, I think you're something else entirely, something better." "What's that?" "A catalyst. You didn't just get revenge or find success. You created a space where people could become their best selves, even the ones who hurt you most." Through the glass doors, I could see our parents talking with Marcus, actually listening. Georgia was showing Barrett the expansion plans. Everything had changed. yet somehow felt exactly right. "Ready to head back in?" Emiliano asked, offering his hand. "I hear your brother's about to announce the national rollout of our family reconciliation centers." I took his hand, feeling the weight of my journey, from that scared girl on the train platform to this moment, settle into something like peace. You know what? I am ready. I'm finally ready for all of it. Because sometimes the best endings aren't really endings at all. They're new beginnings, built on the foundation of everything we've learned, everything we've overcome, and everything we're brave enough to become.
The envelope felt heavy in my hands, despite containing just a single sheet of paper. My father's stern expression told me everything I needed to know before I even opened it. This wasn't going to be a Merry Christmas Eve. I'm Zuriel, and this was the moment my family decided I wasn't worth keeping around. "Well, aren't you going to open it?" My sister Michaela's sugary sweet voice cut through the tension in our family's living room. She sat perched on the arm of Mom's favorite leather chair, already wearing the diamond bracelet they'd given her moments earlier. The crackling fireplace and twinkling Christmas tree felt like a mockery now. I carefully broke the seal, aware of 4 pairs of eyes boring into me. The lawyer, Ernest, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Not exactly your typical holiday guest. "I don't understand," I said, my voice surprisingly steady as I read the document. "You're cutting me out of the will completely?" Mom, Vanessa to her society friends, didn't even look up from her wine glass. "It's for the best, dear. You've made your choices, and we've made ours." "My choices?" I laughed, but it came out hollow. "You mean starting my own business instead of joining the family company?" "A bakery." Dad's voice dripped with disdain. "We spent a fortune on your education, and you want to spend your life making cupcakes." "They're not just cupcakes, Dad. It's my dream. Dreams don't pay bills." He cut me off. "Michaela understands responsibility. She's already showing real promise at the firm." My sister's smirk grew wider. "Don't be dramatic, Zuri. You knew this was coming. I mean, what did you expect?" I folded the paper carefully, my hands trembling slightly. The Christmas tree lights reflected off the glossy paper, creating dancing patterns that reminded me of the sparklers we used to wave around as kids, back when family meant something different. Actually, I stood up, smoothing my dress. I expected better from my parents. Silly me. "Now, Zuriel," Ernest intervened. "Perhaps we could discuss this after the holidays." "There's nothing to discuss." Mom's voice was ice. "The decision is final." I walked to the coat rack, pulling on my winter jacket. The wool felt scratchy against my neck, or maybe that was just the lump forming in my throat. "Where are you going?" Dad demanded. "We haven't even had dinner yet." "I've lost my appetite." I reached for my purse, pausing at the doorway. "You know what's funny? You all think you're punishing me, but really—" I smiled, thinking about the secret I'd been keeping. "You might be punishing yourselves more than you realize." "What's that supposed to mean?" Michaela stood up, her perfectly manicured brows furrowing. "Merry Christmas," I said, ignoring her question. "And good luck. Something tells me you're going to need it." The heavy oak door closed behind me with a satisfying thud. Outside, snow was falling softly, muffling the sound of Christmas carols drifting from neighboring houses. I pulled out my phone and dialed a familiar number. "Natasha?" "Yeah, it's done. They did exactly what we expected." I walked to my car, boots crunching in the fresh snow. "No, I'm okay. Actually, I'm better than okay. Remember that thing we talked about?" "I think it's time." As I drove away from my childhood home, I couldn't help but smile. They thought they were writing me out of their story, but they had no idea. I was about to become the author of their downfall. My phone buzzed with a text from Michaela. "Hope you're happy with yourself. You've ruined Christmas." I typed back quickly. "On the contrary, sis. This is the best Christmas gift I could have gotten. Freedom." Turning onto the main road, I headed toward downtown, where my real future waited. The family might have their precious will, but I had something better. A plan. and thanks to their own oversight, I had the means to execute it perfectly. The vacation house they'd carelessly left in my name years ago would fund my dreams and their nightmare. They just didn't know it yet. Some legacies aren't inherited, I whispered to myself, watching the family mansion shrink in my rearview mirror. They're built from scratch, just like the perfect cake. The snow kept falling, covering my tire tracks, erasing any trace of my presence from their perfectly manicured driveway. By this time next year, everything would be different, and I couldn't wait to serve them their just desserts. 3 months earlier, I stood in front of the lakeside vacation house, key in hand, while Natasha whistled low beside me. And they seriously forgot this was in your name? She ran her hand along the pristine siding. A whole-ass vacation house? Dad put it in my name 5 years ago for tax purposes. I unlocked the door, breathing in the musty air. They haven't used it in 3 years, probably don't even remember it exists. The interior was exactly as I remembered. All pine furniture and nautical decorations, frozen in time like a perfectly preserved museum of family memories I no longer wanted. How much do you think it's worth? Natasha asked, peeking through the lakefront windows. I pulled out my phone, showing her the realtor's estimate. Her eyes widened. Holy shit, Zuriel. That's enough to open my bakery and then some. I smiled, running my fingers along the dusty kitchen counter. The down payment, equipment, first year's rent, everything. Your parents are going to lose their minds when they find out. That's the best part. They won't find out until it's too late. I opened the fridge, grimacing at the ancient condiments inside. The property transfer was legal. They signed it over to me fair and square. Natasha flopped onto the couch, sending up a cloud of dust. Okay, walk me through this master plan of yours again. Simple. I sell the house, use the money to open the Dreamweaver bakery, and still think that name's a bit much. Shut up, it's perfect. I threw a dusty throw pillow at her. Anyway, I open the bakery, establish myself, and wait. Wait for what? For karma to do its thing. I sat beside her. See, what my family doesn't know is that their precious company is in trouble. Big trouble. How do you know that? Remember my friend Brett? He works in commercial banking. Let's just say their last loan application wasn't exactly approved. The next few weeks were a blur of real estate agents, paperwork, and secret meetings. The house sold faster than expected. Turns out lakefront property is quite desirable, even in need of updating. You're really doing this, Brett said over coffee one morning, reviewing my business plan. I've got to admit, when you first mentioned it, I thought you were just venting. People always underestimate me, I replied, sliding him a sample of my latest recipe. Try this. He took a bite of the lavender honey cake and closed his eyes. Okay, scratch that. You're definitely doing this. This is incredible. That's not even my best recipe. I pulled out my laptop, showing him the location I'd found. What do you think? Downtown, high foot traffic, reasonable rent. He nodded approvingly. You've done your homework, but are you sure you want to burn this bridge with your family? They burned it first. I closed the laptop firmly. Besides, this isn't about revenge. It's about finally doing something for myself. But even as I said it, I couldn't ignore the satisfaction I felt knowing what was coming. The day I signed the lease, Natasha brought champagne to the empty storefront. We sat on the floor, drinking from paper cups. To the Dreamweaver, she toasted. May your revenge be as sweet as your pastries. It's not revenge, I protested weakly. Honey, you're literally using their forgotten vacation house to fund your independence while they're about to face financial ruin. That's some premium revenge right there. I couldn't argue with that. The contractors started work the next day, transforming the space into my vision. Every decision felt like a step further from my family's shadow. The warm copper light fixtures, the exposed brick walls, the custom display cases. The morning we installed the sign, I stood across the street, watching the gold letters catch the sunlight. The Dreamweaver Bakery and Cafe. My dream. My name. My rules. My phone buzzed. A text from Michaela. Mom and Dad are worried about you. They say you're not returning their calls. I typed back. Been busy. Big things happening. Whatever. Just don't come crying to us when your little hobby fails. I smiled, pocketing my phone as the first delivery of professional equipment arrived. Let them think I was playing at business. Let them dismiss me one last time. Where do you want the ovens? The delivery man called out. Against that wall, I pointed, where everyone walking by can see them through the windows. Because that was part of the plan too, letting success speak for itself. In 3 months, this place would be impossible to ignore, especially from the windows of my family's law firm just 2 blocks away. The sweet smell of karma was already in the air, and soon it would be baking. We've got another line out the door. Sarah, my newest hire, called from the front, and 3 more wedding cake consultations just booked online. I wiped the flour from my hands and peeked through the kitchen door. The morning sun streamed through our front windows, illuminating a queue of eager customers that stretched past the neighboring shops. 3 months in, and the Dreamweaver had become the talk of downtown. Your red velvet cake just got featured on Food & Wine's Instagram, Brett announced, walking in through the back door. He'd taken to stopping by most mornings, usually with local business news and a hungry look in his eyes. Here. I handed him a fresh cranberry orange scone. Payment for being my unofficial business advisor. Speaking of business, he lowered his voice, glancing around. Word on the street is your family's firm isn't doing so hot. They've had to let go of 3 junior partners already. I concentrated on piping delicate roses onto a wedding cake sample. Is that so? You know, most people would feel bad about their family struggling. Most people's families wouldn't disown them over following their dreams. I set down the piping bag. Besides, I warned them, sort of. The bell above the door chimed, and I heard Natasha's familiar laugh. Oh my God, you have to see this, she called out, waving her phone. The local paper just published their Best of Downtown list. Guess who's number 1 in the food category? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Michaela's name flashed on the screen. Well, well, I muttered, answering. To what do I owe the pleasure? Is it true? She didn't bother with hello. You're the one who bought that building on 3rd Street? I smiled, remembering the offer I'd made last week. The success of the Dreamweaver had left me with enough capital to start investing in real estate. Actually, I'm in the process of buying 3 buildings on 3rd Street. Why? She paused. That's where Dad was planning to expand the firm. Oh, really? I sprinkled edible gold dust on a batch of macarons. Guess he'll have to find somewhere else. Property values are crazy downtown these days. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Doing what? Running a successful business? Making smart investments? Isn't that what you all wanted me to do? The line went quiet for a moment. Mom wants to know if you'll come to dinner next week. Sorry, can't. I'm catering the mayor's daughter's wedding. But hey, feel free to stop by the bakery sometime. We make an amazing humble pie. After hanging up, I turned to find Brett and Natasha staring at me. That was cold, Brett said, but he was grinning. That was perfect, Natasha corrected. But you never told me about the buildings on 3rd Street. Because I just finalized the paperwork this morning. I pulled out a folder from under the counter. 3 historic buildings, prime location, and guess who's going to be my first tenant? Who? That artisanal coffee roaster you love. They're opening their flagship store. I showed them the lease agreement. Between their rent and the Dreamweaver's profits, I'll be able to buy 2 more properties by year's end. While your family's firm downsizes, Brett mused, that's some masterful chess you're playing. A commotion from the front interrupted us. Through the kitchen window, I spotted my mother's perfectly coiffed hair in the crowd. Speaking of chess, I muttered. Showtime! I stepped into the front, watching as she took in the bustling cafe, the elegant decor, the happy customers. Her expression shifted from disdain to surprise to something that looked almost like regret. Zuriel, she said stiffly. This is unexpected. Hi, Mom. What can I get you? Our signature dream cake is featured in Food & Wine this month. She flinched at my casual tone. Your father and I need to discuss something with you. Something important. I'm pretty busy here. I gestured to the full cafe. You know how it is, running a successful business and all. Please, she said, and for the first time in years, I heard a crack in her perfect facade. It's about the firm. We need your help. I let the words hang in the air, savoring them like the perfect bite of dessert. Behind her, Natasha was practically vibrating with anticipation. Well, I said finally, I do have a cancellation for my last appointment today. I could meet you at 5. I paused, then added with a sweet smile. At my office, of course. Mom's eyes darted around the bakery. My bakery, and she nodded stiffly. As she left, Natasha sidled up to me. You're going to make them grovel, right? I watched my mother's retreating form through the window, remembering Christmas Eve, remembering years of dismissal and disappointment. No, I said, turning back to my customers. I'm going to make them eat cake. At exactly 5 o'clock, my parents walked into the Dreamweaver. The evening sun cast long shadows through the windows, and I'd closed early, sending my staff home. Only Natasha remained, pretending to clean tables while eavesdropping shamelessly. Would you like some tea? I offered, gesturing to the vintage tea set I'd arranged. It's Earl Grey. Your favorite, Mom. This isn't a social call, Dad snapped, but Mom put a hand on his arm. Tea would be lovely, she said, settling into one of the copper-backed chairs. Her eyes kept darting around the bakery, taking in the fresh flowers, the gleaming display cases, the wall of press clippings. I poured 3 cups, adding a plate of lavender shortbread. So, what brings you to my little hobby? Dad's jaw tightened. We need to discuss a business proposition. Business? I raised an eyebrow. I thought making cupcakes wasn't a real business. Things have changed, Mom said carefully. The firm is facing some temporary difficulties. Temporary? I took a sip of tea. That's not what I heard. I heard you've laid off staff, lost major clients, and your credit rating is in the toilet. How did you... Dad started, then his eyes narrowed. Brett, that little snake. Brett's a friend. Unlike family, friends actually look out for each other. Mom set down her cup with a clatter. We're here because we need a partner, someone with liquid assets and business acumen. I couldn't help but laugh. Business acumen? 3 months ago, you said I was throwing my life away. We were wrong, Mom said quietly, and for a moment I almost believed her. What you've built here? It's impressive. Very impressive, Dad added, though it clearly pained him. The mayor's daughter's wedding, the press coverage, the property investments. Ah, I interrupted. So this is about 3rd Street. Among other things. He pulled out a folder. We're prepared to offer you a partnership in the firm. Full voting rights, equal share with Michaela. I took the folder but didn't open it. And what makes you think I'd want that? Because it's your legacy, Mom insisted. Your birthright. My legacy? I stood up, walking to the wall of press clippings. This is my legacy. Those buildings on 3rd Street? My legacy. This bakery that you said would fail? That's my legacy. The firm is struggling, Dad admitted, his voice rough. Without an injection of capital, you'll lose everything, I finished. Funny how karma works, isn't it? From her spot by the tables, Natasha didn't even pretend not to be listening anymore. What do you want? Mom asked, desperation creeping into her voice. Name your price. I turned back to them, leaning against the counter. You really don't get it, do you? This isn't about money. This is about respect, recognition, everything you never gave me. We're giving it now. Dad's fist hit the table, rattling the teacups. No, you're not. You're here because you're desperate, because your perfect daughter, Michaela, can't save you, and your backup plan just bought the buildings you needed. Mom's face paled. The vacation house. That's how you funded all this. The vacation house you forgot was in my name? Yes. Turns out I'm pretty good at managing assets when people underestimate me. You planned this, Dad accused. All of it. No, you planned this. Every time you dismissed my dreams, every time you favored Michaela, every time you tried to force me into your mold. I opened the folder, scanned the partnership offer, then slowly tore it in half. I just adapted. You're enjoying this, Mom whispered, watching us suffer. Actually, I'm not. I gathered the torn papers. I'm just finally standing up for myself. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a wedding cake to finish. They stood, Dad's face red with anger, Mom's with shame. At the door, she turned back. What about family? She asked. Doesn't that mean anything to you? It meant everything to me, until Christmas Eve when you showed me exactly how little it meant to you. After they left, Natasha let out a long whistle. That was intense. It's not over, I said, starting to clear the tea service. They'll be back. And nothing. The firm can sink or swim on its own. I'm done playing their games. My phone buzzed. A text from Michaela. How dare you turn them down? They were trying to make peace. I typed back. No, they were trying to save themselves. Big difference. By the way, how's that corner office working out? Natasha read the exchange over my shoulder. You know what this calls for? What? She grinned, pulling out 2 forks. Revenge cake. We spent the next hour eating leftover wedding cake samples and planning my next property acquisition. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about succeeding so spectacularly they have to watch from the sidelines. They're filing for bankruptcy, Brett announced, bursting into my office early Monday morning. Your family's firm. It's happening. I looked up from the stack of invoices I'd been reviewing. Already? I thought they'd last at least another month. 3 major clients pulled out last week. Word got around about their financial troubles, and he made a diving motion with his hand. It's like watching dominoes fall. My phone lit up with a call from Michaela. I put it on speaker. This is your fault, she shrieked before I could say hello. You did this to us. Actually, Mika, you did this to yourselves. I just refused to save you. Mom's a mess. Dad hasn't left his study in 2 days. Is this what you wanted? I signed the last invoice, pushing it aside. What I wanted was a family that supported me. What I got was disowned on Christmas Eve. Funny how life works out. We're having a family dinner tonight, she said, her voice suddenly controlled. You need to come. Need to? I don't need to do anything. Please, she whispered, and for the first time since we were kids, I heard genuine emotion in her voice. Everything's falling apart. I glanced at Brett, who shrugged. Fine. What time? 7? And Zuriel? Leave your attitude at that bakery of yours. I hung up, turning to Brett. Want to be my backup? He shook his head. This is family business, but text me if you need an escape plan. At 7 sharp, I pulled up to my childhood home. The mansion looked different somehow. Smaller, less intimidating. Like seeing a childhood monster in daylight and realizing it's just a shadow. Michaela opened the door before I could knock. They're in the dining room. Try not to make things worse. Lovely to see you too, sis. The dining room was a museum of uncomfortable memories. Formal dinners, lectures about responsibility, countless disappointments. Mom and Dad sat at opposite ends of the massive table, a feast laid out between them. You came, Mom said softly. I'm curious by nature. I took my old seat. So what's this about? Dad cleared his throat. We've made mistakes, serious mistakes. The firm, Mom started. I know about the bankruptcy, I interrupted. Brett told me this morning. Of course he did, Michaela muttered. We've lost everything, Dad continued. The house will have to be sold. The cars, the vacation homes. Home, I corrected. Singular, I already sold the lake house, remember? Mom flinched. We deserve that. But Zuriel, we're still family. Are we? Because the last time we had dinner together, you handed me disinheritance papers as a Christmas gift. We were wrong, Dad said, and the admission hung heavy in the air. About everything. The firm, your bakery, you. The Dreamweaver is worth more than the firm now, Michaela added bitterly. Happy? I pushed my untouched plate away. What do you want from me? A chance, Mom said. To make things right. To be a family again. And the fact that I'm successful now has nothing to do with it? We're not asking for money, Dad insisted. No? I raised an eyebrow. Then what are you asking for? Forgiveness, Mom whispered. A fresh start. I stood up, walking to the window. Outside, the garden where I'd once dreamed of having my wedding was overgrown. Another casualty of their financial collapse. You know what's ironic? I turned back to them. If you'd supported my dream from the beginning, I probably would have helped you now. But you made me prove myself by fighting you every step of the way. We know, Dad said. And we're sorry. Sorry doesn't fix years of dismissal. Sorry doesn't erase Christmas Eve. Sorry doesn't... Then tell us what will, Michaela burst out. Tell us how to fix this. I looked at each of them. Mom's perfectly maintained facade cracking, Dad's proud shoulders slumped, Michaela's mascara-stained cheeks. Time, I said finally. Time and proof that you've actually changed. Not because you need something from me, but because you actually understand what you did wrong. And until then? Mom asked. I reached into my bag, pulling out a small box. Until then, you can have this. It's a new recipe I've been working on. I call it Humble Beginnings. Dark chocolate with a hint of bitterness covered in gold leaf. Is this a joke? Michaela asked. No, I replied, heading for the door. It's a reminder. Sometimes you have to lose everything to appreciate what you had. Zuriel, Dad called after me. Will we see you again? I paused in the doorway. The bakery's open Tuesday through Sunday, 9 to 6. You know where to find me. Walking out, I felt lighter somehow. Not because I'd forgiven them, that would take time, but because finally, after all these years, they were the ones watching me walk away. The morning after the family dinner, I arrived at the Dreamweaver to find Michaela waiting outside, still wearing yesterday's clothes. Have you been here all night? I asked, unlocking the door. No, just since 5. She followed me in, dark circles under her eyes. I've been thinking about what you said, about proof. I started my morning routine, firing up the ovens and checking the prep list. And? I want a job. The measuring cup I was holding clattered to the counter. Excuse me? I want to work here. For you. She straightened her shoulders. I need to understand. Understand what? Everything. How you did this. How you knew it would work. How you're so confident now. I studied her face for any sign of manipulation. You've never worked a service job in your life. I know. She swallowed hard. I'll start at the bottom, washing dishes, sweeping floors, whatever you need. Why should I trust you? Because I have nothing left to lose. Her voice cracked. The firm's gone. My savings are gone. My apartment? She trailed off. Let me guess. Dad was paying for it? She nodded miserably. Fine. I tossed her an apron. Start by wiping down all the tables. Then we'll talk. For the next few hours, I watched my perfectly manicured sister scrub tables, mop floors, and learn to operate the industrial dishwasher. She didn't complain once. Your hands are bleeding, I noticed during the lunch rush. She looked down at her cracked red knuckles. It's fine. I deserve worse. Here. I handed her some hand cream. First lesson of service work. Take care of yourself or you can't take care of business. The bell above the door chimed and Mom walked in. She froze at the sight of Michaela in an apron, serving coffee to customers. What are you doing? She asked, horrified. Working, Michaela replied. Table 6 needs more napkins, Zuriel. On it, I called back, watching Mom's reaction. But you're a lawyer. Was a lawyer, Michaela corrected. Now I'm learning how to make an honest living. Mom turned to me. Is this some kind of punishment? No, I said, arranging pastries in the display case. This is her choice. First real one she's ever made, probably. I came to tell you. Mom hesitated. We sold the house. We're moving into a small apartment next week. Good, I replied. Maybe you'll learn something too. Your father's looking for work. Really? What kind? Anything, she admitted. But no one's hiring. Our reputation is exactly what you earned. I finished. Karma's funny that way. The lunch rush picked up and Mom watched as Michaela and I worked in sync, serving customers, making change, keeping the line moving. You're good at this, she said finally. I know. Would you consider hiring Dad? I laughed. Not a chance. But there's a new cafe opening in one of my buildings next month. I'll put in a word with the owner. As what? Dishwasher, probably. Same place Michaela started. Mom's perfectly maintained facade crumbled completely. How did we get here? By believing your own hype, Michaela answered before I could. By thinking we were better than everyone else. By treating Zuriel like she was nothing. Table 8 needs their check, I reminded her. On it, boss. She hurried off, leaving Mom and me alone. She's different, Mom observed. 3 days of honest work will do that to you. I started restocking sugar packets. Are you? Am I what? Different. Really different. Not just desperate for help different. She looked around the bustling cafe, at her youngest daughter serving tables at the empire I'd built from scratch. I'm trying to be. Then try harder. I handed her a business card. That's the cafe owner's number. Tell him I sent you. Dad starts as a dishwasher or not at all. And us? She asked quietly. Will we ever be okay? That depends on you. All of you. I'm done proving myself. It's your turn. After she left, Natasha came in for her usual afternoon coffee. Was that your mom I just passed? Yep. And that's my sister refilling salt shakers. Natasha's jaw dropped. Okay, what alternate universe did I just walk into? The one where Karma finally showed up to work. I handed her a fresh cinnamon roll. Want to help me interview potential tenants for the 3rd Street properties tomorrow? Wouldn't miss it. She glanced at Michaela. Think they'll actually change? Maybe, but that's not my problem anymore. I watched my sister carefully wipe down a table, paying attention to the corners like I'd shown her. My problem is teaching her how to make a proper latte by tomorrow's morning rush. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about making them see exactly what they missed out on, one coffee order at a time. 6 months after my sister started washing dishes at the Dreamweaver, I stood in front of my newest acquisition, a 3-story Victorian building on Main Street. The morning sun glinted off the fresh paint and restored windows, highlighting the gold lettering, Dreamweaver Enterprises. Not bad for a girl who just makes cupcakes, Brett said, standing beside me. Speaking of which, Michaela emerged from my car, carrying a box of pastries. She'd traded her designer suits for jeans and practical shoes, and her hands were permanently stained with coffee and flour. The contractors want their usual breakfast order. How's Dad doing at that cafe job? Brett asked her. Still washing dishes, still complaining, but he shows up every day. She shrugged. Mom's actually doing better. She got promoted to shift supervisor at the department store. And you? I turned to her. Ready for your own promotion? She nearly dropped the pastry box. What? I need someone to manage the new location we're opening across town. Someone who understands both the business and service sides. But I've only been here 6 months. 6 months of showing up early, staying late, learning every aspect of the business, and never once complaining about the work. I pulled out a contract. What do you say? Tears welled in her eyes. Why? After everything. Because you earned it. The hard way. The right way. The contractor called out from the building entrance, interrupting our moment. Ms. Zuriel, we need you to approve the final layout for the executive offices. Coming, I called back. Think about it, Mika. Let me know by the end of the week. Inside, the building was a maze of activity. Workers installing fixtures, designers arranging furniture, IT people running cables. My empire was growing. Your father's here, my assistant announced, appearing at my elbow. He's in the lobby. I found him standing awkwardly by the reception desk, wearing clothes I'd never seen before. Simple, practical work clothes, his hands rough from months of manual labor. Nice building, he said gruffly. Thanks. What brings you here? He cleared his throat. I got offered a management position at the cafe. Congratulations. I turned it down. I raised an eyebrow. Why? Because I haven't earned it yet. He met my eyes. You taught me that. The hard way. Did I? 6 months ago, I thought I was above washing dishes. Now I know every job matters. Every person matters. He pulled out an envelope. I wanted you to have this. Inside was a check. Small, but clearly his entire savings. What's this for? The vacation house. I know it was legally yours, but I want to make it right. I studied the check, then slowly tore it in half. Keep it. You'll need it more than me. Zuriel, please, let me fix something. You want to fix something? Keep working, keep learning, keep remembering what it feels like to start from nothing. I handed him the torn check. That's worth more than money. His eyes were wet when he looked up. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. I know, but I needed to hear it when I was struggling, not after I succeeded. Michaela burst in, excitement on her face. The health department approved the new location. We can start hiring. Oh, hi, Dad. Your sister offered me a job, she told him. Managing the new store. He smiled, genuinely smiled. Take it. Learn from her. She's better at business than I ever was. Speaking of business, Brett appeared with a stack of papers. The mayor wants to meet about that downtown revitalization project, and the Small Business Association wants you to give a keynote speech. Tell them yes to both. I turned back to my father. I have to go. Actual business meetings to attend. Of course. He headed for the door, then paused. Your mother. She'd love to see this place. Tell her to come by sometime, during business hours like any other customer. After he left, Michaela handed me a coffee, made perfectly, just the way I liked it. You're really not going to make this easy for them, are you? They didn't make it easy for me. I took a sip. But at least now they understand why. Brett checked his watch. Ready for that meeting? Time to show the mayor what a real business empire looks like. I looked around at my growing kingdom. The busy contractors, the gleaming fixtures, the proud logo on the wall. Everything I'd built from scratch, despite every obstacle they'd thrown in my way. You know what? I smiled. I've been ready for this my whole life. They just didn't know it until now. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's success so complete that your doubters have to acknowledge it every single day. One dish, one coffee, one hard lesson at a time. The local business awards ceremony buzzed with excitement as I adjusted my name tag. Zuriel Fernandez, CEO, Dreamweaver Enterprises. Beside me, Michaela fidgeted with her own. Regional Director. Stop fussing, I whispered. You've earned your place here. Did you know Mom and Dad would be here? She asked, nodding toward the back of the room where our parents sat, dressed in their new, more modest attire. They bought tickets like everyone else. I smoothed my dress. That's progress. Brett appeared, grinning. They're about to announce Business of the Year. Ready for your speech? Speech? Michaela looked confused. You think it's a coincidence we're sitting at the front table? I winked. The mayor stepped up to the podium, tapping the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's recipient has transformed our downtown, created hundreds of jobs, and shown us that success comes in many flavors, sometimes literally. Scattered laughter rippled through the crowd. Dreamweaver Enterprises started as a single bakery. defying expectations and conventional wisdom. Today, it encompasses 12 locations, multiple real estate holdings, and a commitment to community development that has revitalized our city center. I stood as my name was called, the applause washing over me. From the corner of my eye, I saw Mom dabbing at tears, Dad sitting straight-backed and proud. "Thank you," I began, reaching into my pocket for my notes. Instead, my fingers found the torn Christmas Eve envelope from that fateful night. I'd carried it with me every day since, a reminder of where I'd started. I said it on the podium. "Success isn't inherited," I said, looking directly at my family. "It's baked from scratch, with equal parts determination and defiance. Sometimes the people who should believe in you don't, and that's okay. It just means you have to believe in yourself twice as hard." Natasha whooped from her table, making everyone laugh. But success without growth, personal growth, is just numbers on a spreadsheet. Real success is watching people change, including yourself. It's seeing your sister trade privilege for purpose. I smiled at Michaela. It's watching your parents learn humility through honest work. It's building something bigger than revenge. Mom's hand found Dad's, squeezing tight. Dreamweaver started as my dream of independence. Now it's a dream of second chances. For downtown, for our employees, for family. Even for those who once tried to write you out of their story. I picked up the torn envelope. This was my disinheritance paper. I kept it to remind myself of rejection. Now I'm keeping it to remind myself of redemption. Not just mine, but everyone's capacity to change when they are willing to do the work. The applause was deafening as I left the stage. Michaela hugged me, whispering, "That wasn't just about business, was it?" "Nothing ever is," I replied. After the ceremony, Mom and Dad approached our table. Dad spoke first, his voice rough. "Your speech? We don't deserve—" "It's not about deserving," I interrupted. "It's about growing. You both did the work. You're still doing it." "We're so proud," Mom said. "Not of what you built, though that's incredible, but of who you've become." "Even without the family legacy?" I couldn't resist asking. "You built your own legacy," Dad replied. "A better one." "Speaking of building," Michaela chimed in, "should we tell them about the community center project?" I nodded. We're converting one of the downtown buildings into a small business incubator and training center, teaching people how to build their dreams from scratch. "Like washing dishes?" Dad asked, a small smile playing at his lips. "Exactly like that." I turned to Mom. "We need experienced retail managers to teach some of the classes. Interested?" Her eyes widened. "You want me to—" "Teach others what you've learned, about humility, hard work, starting over." "I'd be honored," she whispered. Brett appeared with champagne, passing glasses around. "To Dreamweaver's next chapter?" "No," I said, raising my glass. "To new beginnings, earned, not inherited." As we clinked glasses, I caught Natasha's knowing smile from across the room. She'd been there from the start, watching my revenge plot transform into something more meaningful than mere success. "You know," Michaela said softly, "that Christmas Eve was the best thing that ever happened to this family." "How so?" "It broke us down to nothing, made us rebuild, made us real." I looked around at my empire. Not just the buildings and businesses, but the people. My sister, finding purpose in honest work. My parents, learning humility and pride in equal measure. My friends who believed in me when no one else did. "Real is good," I agreed, pulling out my phone to show them the designs for the community center. "Now, who's ready to help others get real too?" Sometimes the sweetest victory isn't in proving others wrong. It's in helping them become right.
The notification popped up on my screen at exactly 3:47 p.m., an email that would change everything. Internal position, Senior Operations Manager. My heart raced as I scanned the requirements. 5 years of experience? Check. Master's degree? Check. Leadership experience? Double check. After years of grinding away at middle management, this was my shot. I'm Maggie. And until that moment, I thought I had it all figured out. Good job, supportive family, and what I believed was an unshakable bond with my younger sister, Yesenia. Funny how one dinner can shatter everything you thought you knew. Dad, can you pass the potatoes? I asked, trying to contain my excitement during our weekly family dinner. The familiar scent of Mom's pot roast filled the dining room, and the clink of silverware provided a comfortable backdrop to our usual banter. So, I started, unable to hold it in any longer. Guess who's up for senior management? Mum's face lit up. Oh, honey, that's wonderful. She reached across the table to squeeze my hand. Isn't it wonderful, Stuart? Dad nodded, his mouth full of pot roast. But it was Yesenia's reaction that caught my attention. Her fork stopped midway to her mouth, and something flickered across her face. Something I couldn't quite place. That's great, she said, her voice oddly flat. When would you start? Well, I still need to interview, I explained, watching her carefully, but if I get it, it would be next month. The salary increase alone would be life-changing. Life-changing, Yesenia echoed, pushing her peas around her plate. You already make more than most people our age, Mags. Mom shot her a look. Yesenia. What? I'm just saying. She shrugged, but there was an edge to her voice I'd never heard before. Some of us are still trying to get our foot in the door while others just keep climbing. Dad cleared his throat. Your sister's worked hard, Yesenia. But you're doing well too, aren't you? That temp position at Maggie's company is going well? It's fine, she muttered, then suddenly brightened. Actually, Khalil seems really happy with my work. He mentioned possibly making it permanent. My stomach twisted slightly. Khalil was my direct supervisor, and this was the first I'd heard about Yesenia's potential permanent position. I'd helped her get the temp job 3 months ago, thinking it would be a good stepping stone for her. That's wonderful news, Mom beamed. Both my girls moving up in the world. I forced a smile, but something felt off. The conversation shifted to Dad's golf game, but I couldn't shake the unease. As we cleared the table, I heard Yesenia's whispered voice from the kitchen. Dad, can I talk to you for a minute? It's about Maggie. I lingered by the dining room, straining to hear more, but Mom called me to help with dessert. When I returned, Dad was looking at me strangely, and Yesenia wore an expression I'd never seen before, something between concern and triumph. Later that night, as I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from Genesis, my closest friend at work. Hey, weird question. Did you know Yesenia was in Khalil's office for like an hour today? I stared at the message, remembering Yesenia's strange reaction at dinner, the whispered conversation with Dad. And now this. A chill ran down my spine as I realized something wasn't adding up. No, I typed back. I didn't know that. Genesis's response was immediate. Watch your back, girl. Something's not right. I pulled into my driveway, killed the engine, and sat in the darkness. The excitement of the promotion opportunity had been replaced by a gnawing anxiety. For the first time in my life, I wondered if I really knew my sister at all. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Genesis. BTW. Heard Khalil talking about the promotion candidates today. Your name came up, but not in a good way. I gripped my steering wheel, knuckles turning white. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but I didn't want to believe it. Not Yesenia, not my little sister. But as I replayed dinner in my mind, her reactions, her words, that whispered conversation, I couldn't ignore the warning bells anymore. Something was happening behind the scenes, and my own sister might be orchestrating my downfall. I took a deep breath and typed back to Genesis, "Tell me everything you know. Don't leave anything out." The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Whatever Genesis was about to tell me, I had a feeling my world was about to turn upside down. The next morning, the office felt different. People who usually stopped by my desk for coffee chat hurried past with quick, awkward nods. Even Janet from accounting, who normally couldn't shut up about her cats, barely made eye contact in the break room. Did I suddenly become invisible? I muttered, stirring my coffee. Genesis appeared beside me, her face tight with concern. We need to talk. Now. She led me to the small courtyard outside where employees usually took their smoke breaks. The morning air was crisp and the space was mercifully empty. "Okay, spill it," I said, wrapping my hands around my warm coffee cup. Genesis leaned against the brick wall. "Remember that happy hour last week? The one you missed because of your dentist appointment?" I nodded. "Well, Yesenia was there. She got pretty friendly with everyone, especially Khalil. And she said some things about you." My stomach dropped. "What kind of things?" "She told Khalil you've been taking credit for her work on the Thompson project, said you've been pressuring her to cover for your mistakes because you're her sister." Genesis's voice was gentle, but each word felt like a slap. "She made it sound like you've been manipulating her since she started here." I nearly dropped my coffee. "That's insane. I helped her get this job. The Thompson project was completed before she even started." "I know that," Genesis said, "but Khalil doesn't. And there's more. She implied you've been bad-mouthing him to other department heads, saying he plays favorites and holds you back." The courtyard seemed to spin. "That's why everyone's acting weird? They believe her? People love drama mags. And Yesenia, she's good at playing the victim. Really good." Just then my phone buzzed. A meeting request from Khalil for later that afternoon. My hands shook as I showed it to Genesis. "Go," she said firmly. "But be careful. Don't let him see how much this affects you." The rest of the morning crawled by. At 2 p.m, I knocked on Khalil's office door, my heart pounding. "Come in, Maggie." His usual warmth was gone, replaced by professional detachment. "Please sit down." I perched on the edge of the chair, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Is everything okay?" He shuffled some papers on his desk. "I wanted to discuss your application for the senior position. There have been some concerns raised about your management style." "Concerns?" I echoed, though I knew exactly what was coming. "Several colleagues have expressed worries about how you handle team dynamics. There's also the matter of the Thompson project." "The project I completed 3 months ago? Before Yesenia started here?" I interrupted, unable to help myself. Khalil's eyebrows rose slightly. "I didn't mention Yesenia." "No, but she mentioned me, didn't she? At the happy hour last week." His expression shifted. "Your sister seemed genuinely distressed about the situation. As her direct supervisor, I have to take these allegations seriously." "Allegations?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Khalil, I've worked here for 5 years. You know me. You know my work." "I thought I did," he said quietly. "But family dynamics can be complicated." As I left his office, my phone lit up with a text from Yesenia. "Hope your meeting went well. Love you, sis." I found Genesis at her desk and grabbed her arm. "I need a drink." 20 minutes later, we sat in a quiet corner of O'Malley's bar, and I told her everything. "That little snake," Genesis hissed, signaling for another round. "You know what this means, right? She's not just after your promotion, she's trying to take your whole position." "But why?" My voice cracked. "I've always supported her, always helped her." "Maybe that's exactly why," Genesis said thoughtfully. "Some people can't stand feeling indebted. They'd rather destroy you than admit they needed your help." I stared into my glass, remembering all the times I'd covered for Yesenia growing up, all the times I'd helped her with school, with job applications, with everything. "What am I supposed to do now?" Genesis's eyes narrowed. "First, we document everything. Every project, every email, every interaction. Then..." She paused as her phone buzzed. Her eyes widened as she read the message. "What?" I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. "You're not going to believe this," she said, turning her phone toward me. "Yesenia just sent a company-wide email thanking everyone for their support during this difficult time. She's painting herself as the victim of workplace harassment." I grabbed the phone, reading the message twice. My sister had just declared war, and she'd done it in front of the entire company. "Game on," I whispered, finishing my drink. "If she wants to play dirty, let's play." The rejection email arrived on a Friday morning. I read it 3 times, each word burning deeper than the last. "We regret to inform you, other qualified candidates wish you continued success." My phone rang. "Mom. Honey, Yesenia just told us about the promotion," she said, her voice dripping with concern. "Are you okay?" I gripped my desk so hard my knuckles turned white. Did she tell you why I didn't get it? She mentioned something about workplace conflicts. Mum paused. Sweetie, maybe you've been pushing too hard. You know how competitive you can get. Competitive? I laughed sharply. Mum, she lied. She made up stories about me to sabotage my chance at this promotion. Maggie! Mom's voice turned sharp. How could you say that about your sister? She's worried about you. We all are. Worried? She's... A shadow fell across my desk. Khalil stood there gesturing for me to follow him. Mom, I have to go, I said and hung up. In his office, Khalil didn't waste time with pleasantries. The senior position has been filled. I thought you should hear it directly from me. Let me guess. Yesenia got it. He shifted uncomfortably. That's confidential information. Right. I stood up. Just like the confidential information she shared about me. The lies about the Thompson project. The made-up stories about harassment. Maggie, sit down. His voice was firm. Your sister provided detailed examples of concerning behavior. Multiple colleagues corroborated her statements. Corroborated? I pulled out my phone, opened my emails. You mean like this email from 3 months ago, where you congratulated me on completing the Thompson project? Before your senior even worked here? Khalil's expression flickered. Or these performance reviews? I continued, my voice steady despite my racing heart. 5 years of excellence, not a single complaint, until my sister started working here. I understand you're upset. No, you don't understand anything. I stood again. You chose to believe lies from a temporary employee over 5 years of proven work. That's not just bad management, Khalil. It's pathetic. I walked out, ignoring his calls to come back. Genesis was waiting by my desk. That bad? She asked. Worse? I grabbed my purse. I need to talk to Yesenia. Want backup? I shook my head. This is family business. I found Yesenia in the break room, surrounded by a group of co-workers. She was mid-laugh, but her smile died when she saw me. Can we talk? I asked quietly. Privately? The others quickly dispersed, leaving us alone. Congratulations on the promotion, I said, watching her face carefully. She had the decency to look uncomfortable. Maggie, Why? My voice cracked. Why would you do this to me? Do what? Her innocent act was perfect. I just shared my experiences if people chose to believe me. Your experiences? I stepped closer. You mean your lies? The project you never worked on? The harassment that never happened? Maybe that's how you remember it, she said softly, but her eyes were cold. But others saw what you couldn't. How you always have to be the successful one, the perfect one, always overshadowing me. I helped you get this job. Exactly, she snapped. Always the big sister, always the helper. Did you ever think maybe I wanted to succeed on my own? By destroying my career? By creating my own path, she corrected, but wouldn't meet my eyes. Maybe it's time for you to step back. Let someone else shine. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Coming over tonight. We need to talk about your behavior at work. I showed it to Yesenia. You've got them all fooled, don't you? She shrugged, but I caught the slight smile she tried to hide. They're just concerned about you, Mags. We all are. You know what's funny? I said, stepping back. I actually feel sorry for you, because someday all these lies are going to catch up with you, and when they do, I won't be there to help fix it. I turned to leave, but her voice stopped me. That's your problem, Maggie. You always think you know best. But look where that got you. I didn't turn around, didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing my face. Instead, I walked straight to Genesis's desk. Remember that opportunity you mentioned last week? I asked. The one with your friend's company? Genesis nodded slowly. Make the call, I said. It's time for me to create my own path. As I walked back to my desk, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Genesis. BTW. Saw something interesting at the company party last night. There's more to this story than you know. Much more. The living room felt smaller than usual with Dad pacing back and forth, Mum perched anxiously on the edge of the couch, and Yesenia sitting there with perfectly practiced concern on her face. This has to stop, Maggie, Dad said, running his hands through his greying hair. This vendetta against your sister is getting out of hand. Vendetta? I stood up, my coffee cup rattling on the table. Have you even asked for my side of the story? We know you're upset about the promotion, Mom started. This isn't about the promotion, I interrupted. This is about Yesenia deliberately sabotaging my career with lies. Yesenia's eyes welled up with tears. See? This is exactly what I was talking about. She can't accept that someone else might be more qualified. More qualified? I pulled out my phone. Should we talk about the Thompson project again? The one you claimed credit for, even though you weren't even working there. That's enough! Dad's voice boomed through the room. Your sister came to us weeks ago, worried about your behavior. She tried to protect you, keep it within the family. But you just couldn't let it go. Protect me? I laughed bitterly. Show them the company-wide email, Yesenia. Show them how you protected me by telling everyone I was harassing you. Mom gasped. You did what? For a split second, Yesenia's mask slipped, but she recovered quickly, wiping away a tear. I had to document everything. HR insisted. After what happened with the client meeting. What client meeting? I demanded. The one where you threw me under the bus about the missing reports? She turned to our parents. She told everyone it was my fault, but she was the one who forgot to submit them. That never happened. I turned to my parents. She's lying. Again. Why would she lie? Dad asked, his voice hard. What would she gain? My job, my reputation, everything I've worked for. Listen to yourself, Yesenia said softly. This paranoia, these accusations. We're worried about you, Mags. Maybe you should talk to someone. My phone buzzed. Genesis again. Got that meeting set up. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. You need to see this. I took a deep breath. You know what? You're right. I do need help. They all looked surprised. I need help understanding how my own family can't see what's happening right in front of them. I grabbed my keys. I need help accepting that my sister is capable of this level of manipulation, and I definitely need help planning my next move. Maggie, please. Mom reached for my arm. We can work this out. I pulled away. Can we? Because right now, you're all choosing to believe convenient lies over asking any real questions. The only one lying here is you, Dad said firmly. Your sister has proof. Witnesses. What do you have? I have the truth, I said quietly. But clearly, that's not enough for this family. Yesenia stood up, arms outstretched. Mags, we just want to help you. Help me? I turned to her. Like you helped me with the promotion? Or like you're helping me now, making our parents think I'm having some kind of breakdown? See? She turned to our parents. This is exactly what I was talking about. The paranoia, the accusations. Stop saying paranoia, I snapped. You know exactly what you're doing, and someday, everyone else will too. Dad stepped between us. I think you should leave, Maggie. Come back when you're ready to apologize to your sister. Apologize? I looked at each of them. Dad's stern disappointment, Mom's worried confusion, Yesenia's perfect victim act. You know what? You're right. I should leave. I walked to the door, then turned back. But don't expect an apology, and don't expect me to come crawling back when the truth finally comes out. Maggie, please, Mom called after me, but I was already halfway to my car. My phone buzzed again. Genesis. Just got some interesting security footage from the company party. Trust me, you're going to want to see this. I started the engine, my hands shaking with anger and hurt. On my way, I texted back. As I pulled away, I caught a glimpse of my family in the window. Mom crying, Dad comforting her, and Yesenia watching me leave with what looked suspiciously like a smile. Game's not over, sis, I muttered, pressing the accelerator. Not even close. The streetlights blurred as I drove toward Genesis's place, my mind racing with possibilities. Whatever she had found, whatever was on that security footage, I knew one thing for certain. Tomorrow would change everything. Genesis's laptop screen flickered in her dimly lit living room. Watch this, she said, pressing play on the security footage from the company party. The grainy video showed Yesenia and Khalil in what they thought was a private corner. Their body language was intimate, too intimate for a boss and employee. Then something unexpected happened. They kissed. "Holy shit," I whispered. "Keep watching," Genesis said grimly. The footage continued. They were arguing now. Yesenia's voice came through the speakers, tinny but clear. "You promised me that position. I did everything you asked." Khalil glanced around nervously. "Lower your voice. You know we can't." "Can't what?" "Tell everyone how long this has been going on? How you hired me specifically to push Maggie out?" I felt the blood drain from my face. Genesis paused the video. "There's more," she said. "But first, someone wants to talk to you." On cue, there was a knock at her door. Genesis opened it to reveal Khalil, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "What's he doing here?" I stood up, ready to leave. "Please," Khalil held up his hands. "I need to tell you something. I owe you that much." Genesis nodded encouragingly. "Hear him out, Mags." I sat back down, arms crossed. "Talk." Khalil sank into a chair. "Your sister and I. It started 3 months ago before she even worked here. She approached me at a networking event, seemed interested in my work. Things progressed quickly." "Spare me the details," I said coldly. "She told me things about you," he continued, "made me question your loyalty to the company, suggested you were planning to leave for a competitor. I was stupid enough to believe her." "Why are you telling me this now?" He pulled out his phone, showed me a text message. "Because she's threatening to go to HR about our relationship unless I fire you for harassment." "But you're coming clean instead?" I couldn't keep the skepticism from my voice. "I'm resigning," he said quietly. "First thing tomorrow. I've already written a full statement about everything, the relationship, the manipulation, how we conspired to deny you the promotion. It was wrong, all of it." Genesis leaned forward. "And that's not all. Tell her about the emails." Khalil nodded. "Yesenia used my computer when I was distracted. She sent emails from my account, making it look like I had concerns about your performance. She deleted them afterward, but IT recovered everything." My hands were shaking. "So you have proof? Real proof?" "Everything," he confirmed, "including security footage of her accessing my computer without authorization. That's a fireable offense." "Speaking of proof," Genesis interrupted, turning back to her laptop, "watch this last bit." The video showed Yesenia on her phone, speaking quietly but clearly. "Dad, you have to believe me. Maggie's becoming unstable. I'm worried about her. No, don't confront her yet. Let me handle it my way." I felt sick. She planned everything. "There's one more thing," Genesis said, pulling out a business card. "Remember that contact I mentioned? Carson Rogers. He's looking for a senior operations director at his firm. Better salary, better position, different city." "Different city sounds pretty good right now," I admitted. "He wants to meet you tomorrow," Genesis smiled. "And guess what? They're direct competitors with our company." Khalil cleared his throat. "The irony is, Yesenia's lies about you going to a competitor might actually come true." "Karma's a bitch," Genesis grinned. My phone buzzed. Another text from Yesenia. "Hope you're feeling better, sis. Family dinner tomorrow." I looked at the evidence on Genesis's laptop, then at Khalil's phone, then at Carson's business card. "No," I typed back. "I have a job interview." 3 dots appeared immediately. "What? Where?" I smiled, not responding. Let her sweat. "What are you going to do?" Genesis asked. "Nothing," I said, surprising them both. "Yet. First, I'm going to ace that interview tomorrow. Then, when I have a signed offer letter in hand," I gestured to the laptop, "then we'll show everyone exactly who my sister really is." Khalil stood up. "I'll have my statement ready first thing tomorrow. It's the least I can do." After he left, Genesis poured us both a glass of wine. "You know what the best part is? Yesenia has no idea what's coming." "No," I said, thinking about my sister's smug face at the family meeting, but she will. My phone buzzed one more time, an email from Carson Rogers himself. Looking forward to our meeting tomorrow. Your reputation precedes you. I smiled, raising my glass to Genesis. To karma, she echoed. And to sisters who don't know when to quit while they're ahead. Carson's office felt different from any I'd been in before, warm, inviting, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He sat across from me, reviewing my portfolio with genuine interest, not the fake enthusiasm I'd grown used to. Your work on the Thompson project is particularly impressive, he said, looking up. Tell me more about how you handled the client resistance. For the next hour, we discussed strategy, leadership, and vision. No games, no politics, just pure professional respect. I'll be direct, Maggie, he said finally, closing my portfolio. We need someone like you, someone who can build teams, drive results, and maintain integrity under pressure. My heart skipped. I appreciate that, but the salary is double what you're making now, he continued. Full relocation package to Seattle, signing bonus, and complete autonomy over your department. I tried to keep my voice steady. That's generous. It's what you're worth. He leaned forward. And yes, I know about the situation with your sister. My stomach dropped. How? Genesis filled me in. Don't worry. It only confirmed what I already knew about your character. Standing your ground while maintaining professionalism. That's exactly what we need here. My phone buzzed. Yesenia again. Why aren't you answering Mom's calls? They're really worried about you. I ignored it. Carson noticed. Family complications don't scare us, he said softly. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is start fresh. When would you need an answer? He slid a folder across the desk. The offer letter's inside. Take the weekend to think about it, but remember, Seattle's a big city. Plenty of room to breathe, to grow, to heal. As I left his office, another text came through, this time from Genesis. Khalil submitted his statement to HR. All hell's breaking loose here. Yesenia's freaking out. I smiled, opening the folder to look at the offer letter. The salary number made me dizzy. My phone rang. Mom again. This time I answered. Where are you? She demanded. Yesenia says you're acting erratic, missing work. I was in a job interview, I cut her off. A very successful one, actually. Silence. Then, what job interview? Senior director position, different company, different city, double the salary. Different city? Her voice cracked. Maggie, you can't just run away from your problems. I'm not running, Mom. I'm walking away. There's a difference. But your sister should be more worried about herself right now, I said calmly. Check your email. I just sent you something interesting. I heard her clicking, then a sharp intake of breath as she watched the security footage. This can't be real, she whispered. It is. And there's more. Ask Yesenia about Khalil's statement to HR. Ask her about the emails she sent from his account. Ask her about... Oh, God, Mom interrupted. Your father needs to see this. Everyone's going to see it, Mom. The truth has a way of coming out. Just then, another call beeped through. Yesenia. I switched lines. You bitch, she hissed. What did you do? Me? Nothing. Karma, on the other hand. They're going to fire me, her voice cracked. Everything I worked for. Everything you stole, you mean. Everything you lied about. I deserved that promotion, she shouted. I deserved... Save it for HR, I cut her off. Oh, and Yesenia. I got a new job, director position, twice the salary. Funny how things work out, isn't it? I hung up, hands shaking, but smile firmly in place. My phone immediately lit up with messages. Dad, Mom, Genesis, even Khalil. But the one that caught my eye was from Carson. Dinner tonight. Let's discuss your vision for the department. Seattle's waiting. I looked out over the city, my city for now, and felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Peace. I'm in, I texted back. Time for a fresh start. As I walked to my car, one last text came through from Genesis. OMG, Yesenia just got escorted out by security. She's crying about how sorry she is, how she never meant for it to go this far. Too little too late, sister. I put my phone away, started the engine, and headed home to pack. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better. And Seattle was looking better by the minute. The offer letter sat on my passenger seat, a ticket to a new life. My phone kept buzzing with family drama, but for the first time in forever, I felt no obligation to answer. Let them deal with the truth they'd been so eager to ignore. I had a dinner to prepare for and a future to plan. I hadn't planned on going to my parents' house one last time, but something pulled me there. Maybe it was the dozen missed calls from Mom, or maybe it was the need for closure. Either way, I found myself standing on their familiar porch, signed offer letter in hand. The door opened before I could knock. Dad stood there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "Come in," he said quietly. "We need to talk." The living room was tense. Mom sat in her usual spot, eyes red from crying, and there was Yesenia, makeup streaked down her face, looking smaller than ever. "I got a job offer," I said, breaking the silence. "In Seattle." "Seattle?" Mom's voice cracked. "But that's so far. That's the point." I placed the offer letter on the coffee table. "I start in 2 weeks." "Maggie," Yesenia started, but Dad held up his hand. "Let your sister speak." I took a deep breath. "I came to say goodbye and to make sure you understand exactly why I'm leaving." "We saw the videos," Dad said, his voice heavy. "Read Khalil's statement. Your mother and we owe you an apology." "An apology?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You didn't just fail to believe me, Dad. You actively chose to believe the worst about me, your own daughter." "I was jealous," Yesenia blurted out. "You were always the successful one, the smart one. I just wanted to destroy my career, to make our parents think I was having a mental breakdown, to sleep with my boss for a promotion." She flinched at each accusation. "Maggie, please." Mom reached for my hand. "We can fix this. As a family." I pulled away. "Fix what? The trust that's gone? The relationships that are broken? Some things can't be fixed, Mom." "So you're just leaving?" Yesenia's voice was small. "Running away? Running away?" I turned to her. "That's rich coming from someone who couldn't handle earning success on her own merit. No, I'm not running away. I'm moving forward. There's a difference." Dad picked up the offer letter, whistled at the salary. "This is impressive." "It's what I'm worth," I said firmly. "What I've always been worth, while you all believed I was crazy or unstable or whatever lies Yesenia fed you." "I'm sorry," Yesenia whispered. "I never meant—" "Save it," I cut her off. "Your sorry means nothing when you're only sorry because you got caught." My phone buzzed. A text from Genesis. "Packed and ready for our celebration dinner. Carson's waiting." "I have to go." I stood up. "I just wanted you to know that I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. Sometimes betrayal shows you exactly what you're capable of." "Will you?" Mom hesitated. "Will you keep in touch?" "Maybe. Eventually. But right now, I need space. From all of you." "I understand," Dad said, surprising me. "Just know that when you're ready, we'll be here. And we'll do better." Yesenia stood up, tears flowing freely now. "Can you ever forgive me?" I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe understanding. Someday, maybe, but not today. Today I'm choosing myself. I walked to the door, then turned back one last time. "Oh, and Yesenia? That karma you're feeling right now? Remember this feeling the next time you try to destroy someone's life." Outside, the evening air felt clean, fresh. My phone buzzed again. Carson this time. "Team's excited to meet their new director. Seattle's ready for you." I typed back, "On my way to dinner. And Carson, thank you for believing in me." As I drove away, I caught one last glimpse of my family in the rearview mirror. Mom crying on Dad's shoulder, Yesenia standing alone by the window. Part of me ached, but a stronger part felt free. Genesis was waiting outside the restaurant grinning. "Ready to celebrate your escape from crazy town?" "More than ready." I smiled back. You know what's funny? For the first time in my life, I feel completely in control. That's not funny. She linked her arm through mine. That's justice. Inside, Carson stood to greet us, champagne already on the table. To new beginnings, he raised his glass. To new beginnings, I echoed, feeling lighter than I had in months. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from Dad. We're proud of you, even if we didn't show it right. Fly high, kiddo. I turned my phone face down. Tomorrow I'd start packing for Seattle. Tomorrow I'd begin my new life. But tonight? Tonight was for celebrating survival, strength, and the sweet taste of rising above it all. The Seattle rain tapped against my office window as I reviewed the quarterly reports. My team had exceeded every target, and Carson's proud smile when I presented the results still warmed me. My phone buzzed. Genesis, who'd joined the company 3 months after me. Guess who I just saw in the lobby? Before I could respond, a knock at my door made me look up. Yesenia stood there, soaked from the rain, looking nothing like the confident manipulator I remembered. Hi, Mags, she said softly. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Sit. She perched on the edge, twisting her hands. Nice office. The view is... Why are you here, Yesenia? She pulled an envelope from her bag. I've been in therapy. Real therapy, not just saying it for show this time. My therapist suggested I write letters to people I've hurt. Yours. Yours was the hardest to write. I didn't take the envelope. And you flew across the country to deliver it? No, she looked down. I flew across the country because I got a job offer here. Different company, entry-level position. I wanted to tell you first, give you the chance to say no. Say no? To me being in the same city, if you don't want me here, I'll turn it down. I leaned back, studying her. The old Yesenia would have played the victim, used tears and manipulation. This version just looked tired. My phone buzzed again. Genesis. Want me to call security? No, I typed back. I got this. You know what's ironic? I said to Yesenia. Everything you did to sabotage me led me here, to this office, this view, this life. So in a weird way, I should thank you. She flinched. I don't deserve thanks. No, you don't, but you also don't control where I live or work anymore. Take the job if you want it. Hope flickered across her face. Really? Really, just remember, this is my city now, my reputation, my success. Try anything like before. I won't, she interrupted. I swear, I'm not that person anymore. My desk phone lit up, Carson calling. Sorry, I need to take this. She stood up. Of course, just... Will you read the letter? When you're ready. I nodded, and she turned to leave. Yesenia? I called after her. She paused. Start fresh. Earn your own success this time. It feels better that way. After she left, I answered Carson's call. Sorry to interrupt, he said, but I just got an interesting email from your old company. Seems they're struggling since you left. Khalil's replacement isn't working out. I smiled. Karma's still doing its job, I see. Speaking of jobs, remember that executive position we discussed? Board approved it this morning. It's yours if you want it. My other line beeped. Mom calling. Once that would have filled me with dread. Now. Can I call you back in 5, Carson? I switched lines. Hi, Mom. Did Yesenia find you? She asked. She was so nervous about seeing you. She did. She seems different. She is. We all are. Mom paused. Your father and I are so proud of you, honey. Not just the success, but how you handled everything. You showed us all what real strength looks like. My eyes burned. Thanks, Mom. After we hung up, I finally opened Yesenia's letter. Pages of honest, raw confessions spilled out. No excuses, no manipulation, just truth. At the bottom, she'd written, I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know that watching you rise above my betrayal taught me more than any success I tried to steal ever could. Genesis appeared in my doorway. You okay, boss? I smiled, looking out at my rain-soaked city. You know what? I really am. Good, she grinned. Because Carson just sent the executive promotion details to the whole team. We're celebrating tonight. No excuses. I glanced at Yesenia's letter one last time before filing it away. Some wounds need time to heal, but they don't have to define you. Success, real success, isn't about getting even. It's about getting better. My phone lit up with congratulatory messages from my team, from Carson, from my parents, even one from Khalil. You deserved this all along. I'm sorry I couldn't see it then. I stood up, grabbing my coat. Come on, Genesis, let's go celebrate. To Karma, she suggested. No, I smiled, thinking of Yesenia's letter, my new promotion, and the long road that led here. To growth. Sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming exactly who you were meant to be. The Seattle rain had stopped, and through my window I could see the sun breaking through the clouds. Perfect timing, as always.